Commentary comes from Martin Brundle and David Croft.
Well, hello, good evening, and welcome. And welcome to the rain. We celebrate 10 years of racing at the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore, and for the first time ever, we might just have a wet race on our hands. The heavens have opened, the wet stuff is pouring down, and the drivers and teams on the grid are facing a decision at the moment as to what tyres to start this race on, intermediates, or will it be the wet weather tyres as well? Welcome to round 14 of the Formula One season in 2017, and welcome to 61 laps around the Marina Bay part of Singapore with some great iconic landmarks, with 23 corners and with danger lurking pretty much at every turn in conditions that are going to be very testing indeed. 2 DRS zones, speeds along the Raffles Boulevard in the dry of up to 200 miles an hour. But who can afford to take the risks tonight? Sebastian Vettel is on pole. Lewis Hamilton leads the championship, starts in 5th. The Red Bulls have got amongst them. We could be in for a crazy night in this part of the world, Martin Brundle.
One of the toughest ever decisions you'll have to make as a Formula One driver. This scenario, they've had no practice really, and there's never been a wet race here. All of the lights around the circuit point away from the drivers. I remember doing a feature here over 10 years ago talking about this and saying, well, it shouldn't be a problem with spray because this and that and the lights and what have you, and we've never really had to test it. Finally, we're going to find out what the drivers can see at night in the rain.
It has been a long time coming for Red Bull. They probably prefer it dry, such has been their race pace. Is it going to be the leveler that Mercedes are hoping for? This is the way the grid looks. 49th career pole and a 4th here in Singapore for Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen lines up alongside him. Then it's Daniel Ricciardo, out qualified by a teammate here for the first time ever, and Kimi Räikkönen for Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton starts 5th for Mercedes. He has his teammate Valtteri Bottas alongside. Fernando Alonso and 2 McLaren cars into Q3 for the 3rd time this season. Alonso starts behind Hülkenberg and ahead of his teammate Stoffel van Dorn, who has Carlos Sainz for company in the Toro Rosso. Jolyon Palmer is just missed out on Q3, 11th in Q2 in 3 of the last 5 races. He starts alongside Sergio Perez. Daniel Kvyat is the filling and the Force India sandwich on the grid, with Ocon celebrating his 21st birthday today. 2 Hasses line up alongside each other. Grosjean just ahead of Kevin Magnussen, who was knocked out in Q1. Felipe Massa and Lance Stroll for Williams, and another disappointing qualifying for them, out in Q1 for the 4th time in 6 races. Marcus Ericsson took a 5-place penalty for changing his gearbox and was out qualified for the first time since the summer break by his teammate Pascal Wehrlein, and that shot there, very, very deceptive, because it looks really, really dry, Martin Brundle, but it is anything but down on the grid at the moment. And what is Max Verstappen being told by his engineers? The teams are making a decision on the hoof here as to what tyres they start this race on, and there's a real mixture down there.
There is. Vettel, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Räikkönen, Hamilton, Bottas on the intermediate. The less tread depth on those, more rubber on the road. On the full wets, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Van Dorn, Sainz, intermediate, Palmer and Perez, full wets, Kvyat, intermediates, Ocon, full wets. It's a real mixture as you go right down the back of the grid. They don't really know what to do, but the top 6 have all gone the same way. The lighter treaded, but more grippy, but won't clear as much water, intermediate tyres. And of course the track will be slippery as anything. Had a really good wash overnight and earlier today as well for good measure. And if there's any residual racing rubber down, that will be like an ice rink.
I think this decision and the complexities of it borne out if you look at the Williams team. Felipe Massa on wet, Lance Stroll on intermediates. They've actually split the strategy because they probably don't know at the moment what is the best tyre.
Smart move for Williams, isn't it? They've not had a great qualifying. They're at the back of the grid. Why not take an each-way bet and see if you can steal some points?
So anyone who thought, well, this is just going to be an easy one-stop race this afternoon, some might stop twice and the strategy should be straightforward-ish, well, think again. Ted, down to you.
Remember we had the smoky Toro Rosso in qualifying. That's what that smoke is. It's rather worrying, but it fixed itself in qualifying, might fix itself in the race. Kimi Räikkönen's questioning whether intermediates is the way to go, Crofty. He's not sure.
It's only heat up, I would imagine he's concerned about, because clearly there's no standing water whatsoever. So the intermediates I would have thought would be the natural choice right now, providing they can get enough heat into them. Obviously, the tread block on the full wet moves around and generates a lot of heat. If you can't go fast enough to get the tyre warmed up, then the inters will not fire up, will just not switch on, as they say.
Right, we're getting our first look at the track here, Martin. We're stationed on the inside of the final corner, but now we get to see what it looks like elsewhere. It's a 3.1-mile circuit, and look, there are big puddles, especially under the bridges. This is on Raffles Boulevard at the moment.
That's new tarmac, isn't it? With the resin on the top, as we saw in Monza, just not clearing away. I don't think they're puddles, Crofty. I don't think it's really standing water. What I'm looking for is how quickly the spray, because obviously in a street circuit environment, you've got the walls and the fences. You've got a bit of a tunnel to some extent where the spray just can't get away, like on a windy day at Silverstone, for example.
I mean, look, we're riding on board now with Nico Hülkenberg. What do you think? And this is not a driver's eye view, but, oh dear, what do you think of the visibility for Hülkenberg here? It doesn't look that great.
It's when they're doing high speeds, the problem, isn't it, towards the end of the straight. There's a lot of slow corners here, and as soon as you go into a slow corner in these conditions, it's like somebody switches the lights on. The spray all dies down. You can suddenly see the car in front of you rather than just listening to it and using your peripheral vision to work out where you are. And actually, sometimes you accelerate into a corner because you brake too early because you couldn't see it.
In the championship, the man in the middle has led the championship throughout this season, but comes into this race 3 points behind Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas is still in the hunt for that title. There can only be one.
100% chance.
A lot of spray, very difficult to see even at this speed.
100% chance.
The visibility is terrible back there.
And that's for Charlie Whiting, presumably. 100% chance of a safety car in the 9 races to date. Yep. That's guaranteed tonight, isn't it? Something's going to go in the wall. And, of course, there are no service roads or runoff areas here much to talk about. Jeff Gordon in the background there, NASCAR champion, now gone to the dark side and become a commentator on his sport. And I can't see any reason why we won't have a full standing start. I don't see any reason to delay this. There's messages coming in, but they'll just have to make the best of it. That's why we're all tuned in. That's why we're giving up the next 2 hours of our lives to watch something rather special. And I do hope they don't throw to a safety car start.
Sebastian Vettel has won all previous 3 starts from pole position on this Marina Bay street circuit. He has Max Verstappen right behind him and Daniel Ricciardo, the fast-starting Red Bulls, who in terms of the championship really have nothing to lose. Mercedes were hoping for conditions to mix things up because in the dry they've not been on the pace of the Ferrari or Red Bull all weekend long.
Rain is easing a bit, Crofty, looking out the window, and it's very easy to see when it's raining here. Just look at any one of the 1,400 floodlights.
Yeah, quite. Medical car will take its usual position right at the back, and the first ever wet night race is nearly upon us here in Singapore. 20 cars line up on the grid. And it's lights out, away we go. Verstappen gets an excellent start. Sebastian Vettel needs to cover him off. Kimi Raikkonen on the inside, and he's crashed with Verstappen. He's hit Vettel as well. Raikkonen is out before the first corner, and he's gone into the Red Bull there as well. Carnage as Fernando Alonso gets involved in the McLaren. The Toro Rosso gets to the escape road, and Fernando Alonso is out of this race, as is Kimi Raikkonen and Max Verstappen as well. It's the second time this season Raikkonen and Verstappen have collided, and yes, Vettel going backwards. He is off and looks to be out of it too. He's reversing round turn 5. Sebastian Vettel has lost his front wing. Disaster for him and his teammate at the start. Can he get back to the pits? But look at the damage on the left-hand side.
He's got to pull over. He's pouring fluid out the back of the car. He's got a damaged radiator from when he hit his teammate. So it was Raikkonen getting a good start up the inside. They sandwiched the Red Bull of Verstappen. What a shame for the race this afternoon. This evening, I should say. Oh, no. But Raikkonen did not want to yield that start, and there was nowhere for Verstappen to go.
The dream for Lewis Hamilton, though, is that carnage has left him in the lead of this race. And it's the carnage that was caused by Verstappen starting well and Raikkonen starting brilliantly. That's where they just clipped Raikkonen into his teammate as well. Nothing Vettel could do about that. And when Raikkonen came back onto the track, slamming into the side of the Red Bull, both drivers out.
And it was a pincer movement, wasn't it? Let's see. I think Verstappen here gets pinched by the two Ferraris. I just don't know what else he could do. He does. Ferrari have got to blame themselves on that one. The two Ferrari drivers, they pinched the Red Bull. And the cruel irony is that then Raikkonen has a second go at Verstappen when they get down into the first corner. Watch this.
Sergio Perez started brilliantly as well. He's up to fourth.
I don't see anything other than the two Ferrari drivers having to take the blame for that.
And that means for the 7th time this season, Max Verstappen is out of a race. The stewards are investigating the Turn 1 incident. This is what it looks like now from Verstappen's cockpit. Vettel's coming over. There's just no room for him at all.
What Vettel wouldn't have seen.
Oh, I got damage. Oh, yeah.
And he was on the radio when he hit the McLaren and got hit again.
Hit there too. No idea. You okay, mate? Yeah, I'm okay, but it's just ridiculous.
Kimi was minding his business up the inside, but I think Vettel just would have no idea. He wouldn't see him in his mirrors. Vettel came across to cover Verstappen, and he had no idea that Raikkonen had such an incredible start. And he couldn't, to be fair. The mirrors are about as useful as a chocolate fire guard in that situation. There's no way Vettel would have been able to see that. What a start Alonso got as well, but he's going to get bad payback for that, sadly.
Right place, wrong time. Fernando Alonso also out of the Singapore Grand Prix. All the drivers coming through the pit lane behind the safety car.
Right, so I think Vettel's just lost it on a load of coolant out of the back of his own car. I mean, it's slippery as well, of course. But
he's had a second moment there, hasn't he?
Yeah, that was all by himself on the throttle.
And that is the damage then on Kimi Raikkonen's Ferrari. Utter disaster for Ferrari at the start of this race. Hamilton leads from Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Perez, Bottas. Jolyon Palmer up to 6th. Stoffel Van Dorn 7th. Esteban Ocon 8th. Then comes Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen and Danny Kvyat.
So they go through the pit lane to avoid going round the first corner where the marshals are still trying to clear up a considerable mess.
Right, Alonso is still in this race. He's down in 12th, ahead of Lance Stroll, Felipe Massa, Romain Grosjean, Marcus Ericsson and Pascal Wehrlein. Ted.
Alonso's only technically in this race because his car is damaged beyond repair, but there's some confusion. Did you see he slowed up the pack in the pit lane, Crofty?
Yeah.
They need to retire the car because it's damaged. It's leaking fluid all over the place out of the side, but they can't stop under this safety car.
But if they red flag the race, can they actually fix it?
Well, yes, technically they could, but anyway, that's going to be a long. It's going to be a long fix because there is considerable damage. But wow, what a gift to Hamilton!
Oh, absolutely. Verstappen and Ricciardo walking back there, Martin. Kimi Raikkonen hasn't even taken his crash helmet off. I would imagine he's seething underneath it, and Max Verstappen clearly seething as well. That's 7 times now he's retired from a race. 3 of those occasions have been first corner incidents, and for the second time, it's Raikkonen that's taken him out. Now, before Bottas hit Raikkonen, hit Verstappen, this time around, you think very much Kimi Raikkonen's fault?
I think it's Vettel's fault because he didn't realise, and he went to squeeze Verstappen out down in the first corner, not realising his teammate was up the inside. I believe it will probably go down to a racing incident, and because it's different under the star, it's a different scenario to a one-on-one battle, as it were. But in no way, if you're going to blame anybody, you have to blame Vettel for that accident, because he's coming across the track to squeeze Verstappen. What was Verstappen? There's nowhere he could go. He'd already started to get out of the throttle, from what I could see.
Now, people will be asking back at home on this one as well. Verstappen just having the most wretched luck.
I think he could have. You know how good he is in the rain, that boy. I think he could have waltzed this race.
And Red Bull really fancied their chances here. See if we can hear it.
They felt quite grippy, like a little better than what they were even prefer to be on extremes? No, because the pedals were not too bad, so they're sliding a little bit fast. I think it's better on foot.
Just talking about was he on the right tyres or not. People will be asking, should we have started behind the safety car? Was that down to it was too slippy for the conditions? They should all have been on the wets or not?
Well, let's run them around one at a time then. You know, no, we shouldn't have started under the safety car. This is called a Grand Prix. It's a motor race, and we go racing. And the drivers have to sort it out as they do. You know, if they trip over each other, that's how it. That's how it turns out, isn't it? So Hamilton, I bet he can't believe his luck out front, but Ricciardo should be handy, and he should have all four wheels pointing roughly in the same direction as well.
Quite. Here's the thing, in terms of the championship, Lewis Hamilton went into this race 3 points in the lead. Was looking for damage limitation. The lights went out, and then suddenly the man that could put a massive dent in his championship aspirations is out of this race as well. Hamilton could actually walk away from here with a 28-point advantage over Sebastian Vettel, and with only 6 races after that, this could be the championship-defining moment.
Absolutely. There is no doubt about it, Crofty. That is a championship-defining moment for Vettel. But, of course, Hamilton hasn't got to the end of the race yet, and it looks pretty tricky out there.
So Verstappen, who was just joking a couple of weeks ago that he has to spend more time training because he doesn't get a good fitness workout on a Sunday afternoon.
Bit of teacut will rub that out.
So look there, Verstappen even pointing towards Vettel. Then Vettel comes right across the track. I'll tell you what, Martin, if that was the final furlong of a horse race, there'd be a steward's inquiry on Sebastian Vettel for veering so far to the left. But he was taking the racing line. But should he have been a bit more aware of what was going on the outside?
He got he basically got a poorer start than Verstappen, and nowhere near as good as Raikkonen, who had a lightning start. And that's when he went to cover it off. This is what it looked like then from Valtteri Bottas, who had an equally poor start, and lucky for him he did, basically, because that meant he could duck underneath a lot of this carnage.
See, up on his inside, Sergio Perez had made a lightning getaway for Force India. Perez signing a new one-year deal with Force India to keep him racing for the team in 2018. That was announced this morning. Hamilton
very nearly took the lead, didn't he? Oh, how close was that to his front wing?
And now let's just see what happened to Sebastian Vettel on board with Lewis Hamilton here. Vettel goes wide and then just loses it completely, Martin.
I don't know if there's no ABS or traction control on these cars, of course, so I don't know if he just lit it up and dropped it.
Yeah.
I more suspect, we saw all the coolant fluid coming out of the back, didn't we? I more suspect he spun on his own coolant. And
let's see, if we look at the damage underneath on the floor there of Alonso's McLaren. He said the car feels okay, but he did take a massive, massive hit. Ted, down to you.
It's the other side of Alonso's car we need to see. There's nothing of it. There are electronic bits and wires going all over the place. So I'm amazed he's managed to carry on so long. So well done everyone at McLaren building a strong car. Just a radio message from Vettel, Crofty. I don't know whether you heard it when he apologised pretty profusely and miserably actually on the radio to his team. They told him to turn the car off. Sebastian said, "Sorry guys, I'm so very sorry about that." Sorry for himself, his own championship. What a shame though. What's just robbed us. Yeah. Alonso passes me again.
Hang on, Ted.
So Lewis, just remember this race is all going to be about getting the car home and in one piece.
I realise that, Bono. I realise that. I'm doing my best.
What's the phrase?
Yeah, NSS. So, what about Renault then? 3rd and 6th.
Alain Prost, if he wasn't drinking water, he'd be smiling there, surely. A properly good start for the Renaults. Whatever Hamilton does here, if he brings that car home in the top 10, he will increase his points advantage.
I wonder how hard he'll fight Ricciardo if the Red Bull is better in these conditions. How much of a fight he'll want to put up, because he's got to think of the championship now, but he doesn't want to give away 7 points lightly either, of course. And I don't think I've ever seen Lewis Hamilton give up a victory anyway. So that's going to be an interesting fight, but should be pretty handy behind them. But Jolien down in 6th as well.
Well, Jolien down in 6th. Let us not forget Nico Hülkenberg today making his 128th race start. Now, if he gets in the top 3, he avoids the record for the most Formula 1 starts without a podium, ever. If he gets on the podium, then he just shares it with Adrian Sutil. He could get rid of that unwanted record, and is probably in a position that he really didn't expect to be in after 4 laps of the Singapore Grand Prix.
Incredible, isn't it? He's 10 podiums behind me, and I drove a load of flying bedsteads.
There's anyone I'd like to see more on the podium than Nico Hülkenberg this evening? I'm not quite sure I can think of his name at this moment in time, because he has also had some wretched luck when he's been in a position. Safety car coming in this lap.
Yeah, so need some brake temperature. Goodness knows how you generate any tyre temperature in these conditions, and they'll be tiptoeing on the throttle all the way around that first lap. We don't really still know what visibility's like. We didn't get up and running, did we? And I'm with Ted. I feel sort of gutted that the race has been taken away from us to an extent, but there's still plenty of cars on track.
Yeah, the visibility doesn't look great. The conditions look absolutely tricky as heck. This is one for the brave, and does fortune fear the brave? And we're on board with Daniel Ricciardo as we get to restart this race again. Lewis Hamilton will lead them away. The safety car you've just seen there peeling back into the pits. The green light is on, and we are racing properly here in Singapore. We've already lost Raikkonen, Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel from this race. Hamilton leads them across the line from Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg. Behind them comes Sergio Perez down the inside. Goes Jolyon Palmer on Valtteri Bottas, caught Bottas napping, and Palmer is up into 5th place. Great move there from the former GP2 champion. Behind Bottas comes Stoffel Van Dorn, struggling a little bit in the McLaren it seems, and behind Van Dorn in the other Force India, it's Esteban Ocon. Then comes Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen, and in the top 10 for Haas.
Massive chance now for Force India, for Williams, for Haas, for Renault to score some points today, to really get a handful of points. Toro Rosso as well. So these are critical days for those midfield teams. They can be make or break in terms of the budgets for the following year and the extra they want to spend to make their car faster through next year. And that was a great move from Jolyon Palmer.
Yeah, don't forget, Williams 55 points in 5th, Toro Rosso 40 points in 6th, then comes Haas on 35, Renault on 34. It's very tight indeed, and the 2 Williams driver, Massa 14th, Stroll 13th at the moment on the track, and they are, Martin, tiptoeing through the streets of Singapore.
The visibility looks a little bit difficult at the end of the straight, to say the least, but there's no standing water, there's no chance of aquaplaning like we saw in Monza, and that's the thing that gets scary, when you just float off on top of the water and you become a passenger in a boat instead of the driver of a Formula 1 car. So other than the visibility, and a Bottas under pressure from Van Dorn as well.
He really is struggling out there, Valtteri Bottas, at the moment. You can see how tricky it is on board with Stoffel Van Dorn as he tries to get out of that right-hander. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, Bottas on the intermediate. So this is the time for the full wet runners, Hülkenberg, Perez and Palmer, to make their moves.
And they already are starting to make their moves. Ted, very quickly, is it stopping raining where you are?
Yes, it has stopped.
Excellent. I just looked out the commentary box window and I thought it might be, but you're a little bit closer to the elements than Martin and I are.
I'd be surprised if the wets overheat at this stage, though. There's not enough really fast corners, but of course they will give up before the inters in terms of they carry more heat, which, as Ted rightly points out, but it'd be interesting to see. I don't think anybody's got any knowledge of what will hang on, what will last.
We've never had these conditions before on a night race in Singapore, and they're going straight off the track and struggling for grip on the intermediate tyres. Carlos Sainz makes his way correctly back onto the track, but now has Kevin Magnussen right behind him. Magnussen on the wet weather tyres, the full wet tyres, giving him an awful lot of pressure. Fernando Alonso still going in this race, as you can see. He's down in 12th place, and he's not doing a bad job despite that huge hit.
Incredible. I thought he was long gone. He was flying through the air backwards, wasn't he, at one point? But Hamilton's lead then already up to 3.5 seconds.
What do you think of the conditions, Daniel? I know it's early. What do you think? Tyres are still improving.
Yep, Inter's the right tyre.
Well, Hamilton a 2-minute and 5 on his last lap. Daniel Ricciardo a 2-minute and 7 on the Inters. Nico Hülkenberg 2 minutes and 9 on the wet weather tyres. They'll give you the grip, but the speed is with the intermediate tyres.
Yeah, when the wet runners will be in trouble, as if it sort of half dries. and there's not a clear-cut moment to go onto slick tyres. If it rains again, they'll be in trouble.
283rd Grand Prix for Fernando Alonso. Lance Stroll in the Williams in his 14th Grand Prix. Stroll is really giving Alonso some pressure as they head over the Esplanade and on towards the final sector. Is he going to have a little go as Sebastian Vettel comes back into the paddock? No, he's not.
Don't forget how good Stroll was in the rain in Monza in qualifying.
Absolutely. Youngest man ever to be on the front row of a Formula One Grand Prix. And he has previous from his F3 exploits of good races in wet weather conditions. Sebastian Vettel, I don't think he's got a pass, but they might just let him into the paddock. He just doesn't even ask. And looks furious. Just looking at the body language there, and might well he be. Previous 3 races on pole position in Singapore. He's gone on and won out before the before the 5th turn, I should say, here in Singapore tonight. Lewis Hamilton now has a 4.2 second lead over Daniel Ricciardo and Lance Stroll and Felipe Massa, both past Fernando Alonso down the straight. The 2 Williams making up places as Alonso goes from 12th down to 14th.
What do you think?
Fernando, we've lost data from the car. We've lost data from the car, so we don't know what's going on. You'll have to manage things yourself. Let us know what happens.
Oh, there's the close-up that we wanted of the damage.
They could well have lost data from the car because the gubbins, the electronics were in the side pod there.
Well, they might as well keep going for the time being, but struggling, and passed there by the 2 Williams, Fernando Alonso. Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz separated by just half a second. Ocon on the wets and Sainz on the inters. So what will be the crossover? When can those on intermediate tyres come in for slicks and the wet tyres as well?
Would normally, let me have a guesstimate, 20 seconds between slicks and the cut-off point. You know, you want to be, what a race pace would have been 47s, 48, so it doesn't look anything like crossover at the moment, does it? So maybe it's going to be nearer 10 or 12 seconds then. But the problem is, you go on to slicks because the racing line will accept them, and you make one error, one slide, and you're straight onto the wet part, and you'll be straight in the barriers. So I think they'll have to be extra cautious on this one.
Ocon, who came into this race on his 21st birthday, with all 22 of his Formula One starts not only completed, but the majority scoring points as well. He's just 3 races away from equaling the record for a rookie of the most consecutive finishes at the start of a Formula One Grand Prix, and he'll be very, very wary out on the track at the moment as he tries to extend that run. Hamilton's lead is 5 seconds in this race from Daniel Ricciardo, who's 5.5 seconds up on Nico Hülkenberg in 3rd. And Hülkenberg holding 3rd place very nicely at the moment, ahead of Sergio Perez, who's just a couple of seconds clear of Jolyon Palmer in 5th place. Valtteri Bottas now 1.2 seconds behind Palmer in 6th. Then comes Stoffel Van Dorn, and the battle we're seeing now, Ocon and Sainz heading down towards the fastest part of the track. Now, has Carlos Sainz got Esteban Ocon in his sights? Hasn't got the advantage of DRS. Surely if he did have that, would have been making a challenge going into turn 7. Even on the wet weather tyres there, the Force India sliding around through turn 7.
Bottas beginning to catch Palmer again on his intermediate tyres. Bottas, that is, on the inters, Palmer on the wet. So 3rd, 4th and 5th on wets. Bottas in 6th on the inters, then Van Dorn and Ocon on the full wets as well. So clearly, as you say, inters have it in terms of the pace, but there's not a huge amount in it at the moment.
Now, we're only 8 laps into 61 in total, but Ted Kravitz looking at the times as Carlos Sainz goes a little bit wide there, certainly wider than he would have wanted to. Just looking at the times, Ted, I think we're up to a 2-hour race at the moment. We've got 1 hour and 39 minutes to go. We're not going to get 61 laps in, are we?
It's always a 2-hour race, though. Oh, no, I see what you mean.
Not last year it was.
Wasn't it? Okay.
1 hour 55.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. But I tell you, it hasn't rained. It's really drying for a good 15 minutes now, and it's starting to dry up quite quickly. So just wondering what these full wet runners, Hülkenberg, Perez and Palmer are going to do. I wonder if they're going to do a Hamilton in Monaco, Crofty. you remember a couple of years ago, I run the full wet tyre down to where it's almost a slick and then try and go onto the slicks. It's probably their best chance, actually, because they'll lose a lot of track position coming in for inters and then going back on slicks.
No power. I think we have to stop.
Okay, Fernando, we see too many problems. We need to retire the car, so bring it back to the pits.
As you saw, it already been passed by Matt Grosjean, Ericsson and Wehrlein as well. Fernando Alonso saying no power. The team saying, well, we haven't got much data, but what we have got, we're seeing too many problems. And Fernando Alonso is going to join Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen and Kimi Raikkonen in retiring from this race. If you're just joining us here in Singapore, the 4th time in Formula One history that the front row have been wiped out on the first lap. Spain last year as Carlos Sainz goes down the inside on Esteban Ocon. He gives him space and, to be honest, knew he couldn't really defend the way he would have wanted to and had to give up that place to Esteban Ocon. Sainz is up to 8th.
It is. We've also got Hamilton on the radio saying the fronts are just starting to grain a little bit. You get a little ball to rubber on the surface of the tyre and you start sliding, and the more you slide, the more you grain them, and sometimes you can burn through that and pick up some grip a few laps later. But it's early suggestions, although of course their pace is much faster in the front. And Ricciardo just starting to catch Hamilton on that previous lap, but not on this current lap.
Yeah, for the first time in the race, Ricciardo was faster than Hamilton on that previous lap. Belgium 1977, Japan 1990, and Spain last year at the other 3 races where the front row took each other out on the first lap. Fernando Alonso is out.
This was brilliant from Fernando Alonso in the start, and then he's just an innocent bystander, I'm afraid, of the, well, strangely enough, of the silliness that went on the front row of the grid.
Yeah.
He got caught out by. I mean, that thing, the amount of downforce that will have lost, and then, of course, he's got some other systems that have failed as well in there.
3 times this year, Fernando Alonso has seen the checkered flag. It's a familiar feeling, but this time, an awful lot of damage. And that's going to take just a little bit of fixing, Martin, before we head on to Malaysia in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, sadly, I'd like to see him in the race, of course. So we've lost 4 runners then. Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen and Raikkonen. That's quite a lineup, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Well, we were speculating in the commentary box as to who might cause the first safety car. It has to be said, Vettel, Verstappen and Raikkonen weren't on our lineup of likely candidates.
Sainz is really fast now. He's got past Ocon as well, catching Van Dorn quickly. And Bottas's Mercedes on the intermediates, beginning to catch Palmer again, as we mentioned. And there is...
well, Sebastian Vettel.
The naughty boy, the disappointed boy.
Yeah, disappointed, certainly. Naughty. Well, he's going to have to go to the stewards and explain what happened at the start.
Just not much of a whack from his car, did it? But it's done a lot of damage. And did he just drop it by himself, or...?
He's already got damage there on the left-hand side to the barge board, of course. That's going to be affecting the aerodynamics. Paddy Lowe watching on the Williams pit wall with us and joining us live in what has already been a crazy, chaotic start, Paddy. I mean, you'll be glad, first and foremost, you 2 guys are still running.
Yeah, very glad. It was kind of a shame we didn't lose a few more cars at the front there, to be honest. It was only 3, but there you go.
Yeah, you're not on the same programme as us there, Paddy. We were really disappointed. But
I'm sure.
I see your point. I do see your point. When you've got Stroll up in 12th place, Massa in 13th at the moment. What are they reporting back?
Well, I think we're starting to see play out the difference between the 2 tyres at the moment. So you see Lance a lot quicker than Felipe on the inter, and Lance held up by Magnussen there on the extreme. So these little trains separated with the different tyres.
We saw Lance doing very well in Monza in the wet. Do you rate him as a driver in these sort of conditions? Because he's had good results in the junior formula when it's rained as well.
Yeah, he seems to show his talent very, very strongly in the wet. That lap he did in Monza in qualifying was all genuine talent. He did a fantastic job.
So what sort of time are you looking for a crossover now to get off the intermediates, get off the wets and start for the slick tyres?
Well, the key thing here is to see if we can actually stretch Felipe through without needing to go via inter. So we're watching closely. But these are conditions we haven't faced before at this circuit, so we'll watch others and see what times make sense to change over.
What would be a normal fudge factor at Monaco or something? 10 or 12 seconds before you went into to slicks, or wet, some kind of wet tire to slicks?
Yeah, we normally do it on percentages, so it'd be something like 15%, something like that.
Yeah, so because they're already in the 205, so we're within sort of 17, 18 seconds of what you'd consider a dry pace.
Into the wall, Danny Kriat. Sorry, Paddy. Sorry, Martin. I'll butt in there because Danny Kriat has gone into the wall just after he got past Kevin Magnussen under pressure. With Stroll catching Magnussen and knowing that he's got to make the most of the early opportunity, he's binned it.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
And sorry, it seems to be a hard word, but the right word, I think, in that particular circumstance, and the safety car comes out again. So the field will be concertinaed once again. Danny Kriat, well, we've seen errors like that time and time again on street circuits, Martin.
Going to snatch a break, presumably.
Yeah, locked up, didn't he?
And what he didn't do was realise it early enough, or admit it early enough, go down the escape road. So a bit too much front brake bias. And in the pits then, we've got Daniel Ricciardo going for slicks. He's going to put some slicks on.
No, is that another set of inters?
Yeah, inters. So that would be bold. Now, just applying that 15% rule of thumb there from Paddy, that's 16 seconds. I think a good race time at the beginning with fuel on would have been a 147, 148.
Yeah.
So they're down in that zone, but it looks nothing like ready for slicks, does it?
No, not at all. Interestingly here, Hamilton didn't pit. Ricciardo did, so Hülkenberg moves up in a second place. From Ricciardo, Perez has pitted. Palmer now moves up to 4th. Bottas 5th. Van Dorn 6th. Sainz 7th. Perez should come out in 8th place. As we're seeing Carlos Sainz once again tiptoeing over the runoff area. Behind Stoffel Van Dorn. Ocon has pitted for Force India as well. So obviously some of the teams, Martin, thinking that these conditions are going to last for quite a bit longer, and it's worth actually now getting some new intermediate tyres on.
Yeah, and Red Bull prepared to give up track position to Hülkenberg to get a fresh set of intermediates. That might prove a very smart move. We'll find out. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to that. You'll sometimes see a little red light underneath the front of the car. That's a ride height sensor, a little infrared light that they measure the distance to the ground with.
Right. So, Ted, we were a little bit of a mixed-up strategy here, with some teams feeling that they needed to get in and get rid of that first set of intermediates.
Well, some teams thinking they need to get rid of their first set of full wets, Crofty. So it's the Force Indias of Perez and Ocon who've taken this as a gold-plated opportunity to get rid of the full wets, which are not the right tyre at this point in time, and go on to the intermediates. But what are Renault doing? So they must be thinking, we'll do a Hamilton-Monaco 2015. We'll just run this full wet down to a slick and then go straight onto slicks, because neither Hülkenberg nor Palmer into the pits yet. Hülkenberg P2.
Well, they're either very clever or they've missed the trick. And I'm like you, Ted. I'm very surprised they didn't come in like others did and get rid of the wet. So because it's a safety car, they will back up behind the safety car itself. And
that was Esteban Ocon pitting.
Bit of a long one, but so Ricciardo loses one track position to Hülkenberg on very used wet tyres, and he's in a very good. If it was a virtual safety car, he wouldn't catch Hamilton back up. Right. So he's going to the gap. He's going to pull almost all of his gap back for his pit stop to Hamilton, and he's just got to navigate round Hülkenberg in a hurry,
which should be, in theory, an awful lot easier than it might look. To the
now we've got a Renault.
The first time, but now
they're going to fall to the back of the pack.
Hülkenberg comes in. Hamilton and Ricciardo go past. Palmer is staying out, is he?
Yeah, Palmer's gone past. Yeah. So where is he going to feed
Palmer's
back
coming in. They're double stacking. They're double stacking on this one. 60 kilometres an hour in the pit lane. They're double stacking. The two Renaults.
It's played beautifully into Red Bull's hands then, hasn't it?
Played beautifully into Mercedes' hands as well. Bottas stays out. He was on the intermediate tyres anyway. So Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas. Sainz is up to 4th. Then comes Hülkenberg, and then Perez, and what could possibly be Jolyon Palmer. Now, Lance Stroll will move up the field a little bit now as well. He's into the points. So
where does Palmer feed back in?
Palmer feeds back in 7th, just ahead of Lance Stroll. In comes Van Dorn. There's Felipe Massa staying out. Oh, this is going to be tight, isn't it? Van Dorn and Felipe Massa. Now, they're behind the safety car. Didn't really see anything untoward in that.
Who got to the safety car line first?
Wheels. They've touched wheels. Van Dorn now ahead of Felipe Massa.
I think Van Dorn got to the safety car line first, didn't he, coming out of the pits? Why they felt they need to run into each other, I don't know.
So therefore he has the track position.
I believe so. I believe Van Dorn
okay.
had the high ground there for the white line that crosses the pit lane and the track.
Has everyone changed tyres except me? Not sure that was a good idea, is it?
I think it's certainly borne out to be a very good idea for Daniel Ricciardo. Did Renault miss a bit of a trick there as well, I wonder, by waiting a lap too long? And this is Massa running in to Van Dorn.
Felipe was looking right. He was looking in his right-hand mirror. I don't think he realised he'd come around the outside. Probably trying to let him through, actually, because I think he must have realised that he'd... there's Rob Smedley shaking his head. But anyway, they seem to be in the right position again now.
So intermediate tyres for everybody in the top 10, apart from Felipe Massa, who's on the wet tyres, and making sure the wet debris from Danny Kvyat's Toro Rosso is removed. Swift team of marshals.
That's going to need a bit of work on the other end of that Tech Pro barrier there.
Yeah, just a touch, Martin. So we're on lap 13 of the Singapore Grand Prix. What a race it has been so far. We've lost Raikkonen, Verstappen, Vettel and Alonso, and now Danny Kvyat as well, and Ted.
That Lewis Hamilton conversation continued with his engineer, Crofty, on the team radio feed. And Peter Bonington said, look, Lewis, you know, all right, all Ricciardo would have done would have been to stay out. If we would have boxed, they would have done the opposite to us. And then if we had put new inters on, we'd now be in P2 without the track position. So there wasn't a response after that. But I don't know about that. I mean, it's easy to say, you know, might have, shouldn't have, could have. But it seemed like the right idea to me. I thought everyone was going to box and put new inters on. And there's no excuse for Renault to say that it was too late, because Ricciardo was ahead of them on the road, of course, wasn't he? So they could have just followed Ricciardo in and changed tyres.
So they've gone from podium and 5th to Hülkenberg now in 5th and Jolyon Palmer in 7th. And what it means is that Valtteri Bottas gets promoted up into the top 3. Carlos Sainz is now running in 4th place. So I mentioned that Sebastian Vettel, the long-time championship leader this season, out after colliding with Max Verstappen and then his teammate Kimi Raikkonen, and then dropping it before turn 5 alone on the road. What has he got to say about that chaotic start? He's with Craig Slater.
Sebastian, can you give us your perspective on the end of your race tonight?
Well, not ideal, is it?
Should it have been a safety car start? Were you unaware of the good start that Kimi made? Did that contribute?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't see that much. I saw Max, and the next thing I see is obviously Kimi hitting the side on me and Max somewhere there. So I think obviously all three of us.
Listen, you drove so well yesterday. How big a blow is this in title terms? I know it doesn't.
How this business is, and we move on. I mean, it doesn't change much. Obviously, we're not in the race. That's a pity, and we can't show the pace that we have. But yeah, I'm sure there will be more opportunities.
Does that sound like a man, as the safety car's coming in by the way at the end of this lap, does that sound like a man who doesn't want to say too much because he knows he's going off to see the stewards after the race, Martin?
Yeah, he's not going to go, sorry, it's all my fault, because that will compromise him. But Ricciardo getting ahead of Hamilton there behind the safety car, which is a bit naughty. You are not allowed to do that. He needs to be careful on that one, because he wants to bolt as soon as Lewis does. But Lewis is going to feel slightly compromised there with a Red Bull on a brand new set of inters in his mirrors.
Yeah, Hamilton backing the pack up, as is the wants of the leader, and they're perfectly entitled to do so, as he's trying to get some temperature into his tyres. Ricciardo's so close to him, He's having to take evasive action to almost get out of the way. This is what it looks like from Jolyon Palmer's Renault behind the Force India of Sergio Perez. And the light can go green, and we can get going once again.
Ricciardo's tyres will fire up much more quickly. They come out of the blankets, but of course they cool down behind the safety car. But with more rubber, they will just heat up. They've got a thicker tread depth. They'll heat up much faster.
Marcus Ericsson comes into the pits, I think, whilst we get going. And we can get going once again at Singapore. The second restart. Hamilton's got away well from Daniel Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas and Carlos Sainz. Then Hülkenberg, Perez and Jolyon Palmer. Stroll under pressure from Van Dorn stays ahead of him. Massa and then Romain Grosjean down in 11th place and Esteban Ocon in 12th as they make the way now towards turn 5 and the start of the long straight. Carlos Sainz looking for an opportunity possibly behind Valtteri Bottas, who's had his struggles at the start of this race, but now up into the podium position. Down Raffles Boulevard they go. Hamilton still leads Ricciardo, looking behind for Perez and Hülkenberg, former teammates, dueling away for 6th place at the moment. And they're all taking extreme care in these conditions and so far doing a very good job of getting around this lap.
Feel the grip of oiled oak, I'd imagine, out there as they find their way around again, but no further rain, but it's just hanging around, isn't it? The track really not drying out at all in places.
78%, 79% now humidity. It's a sticky night in Singapore.
Track temp 30 degrees and it does look a handful out there, doesn't it? This is over the Anderson Bridge. Tricky little left-hander at the end of that, trying to put the Renault under pressure. And, well, the Renault's gone on to intermediates, but it doesn't look particularly good, does it?
No, they're not firing up the way they want. The Force India obviously changing onto new intermediates as well. Perez looking to try and find a way past. Out in front, Hamilton is setting good sector times to increase his advantage over Daniel Ricciardo.
The Renault's under. They both came through that chicane understeering, the front sliding across the track. There he is again. They just cannot get the front to stick at the moment on the Renault. Hopefully that'll come to them as the tyre temperatures do.
And there we see Carlos Sainz and Michael Hülkenberg getting a little bit out of shape coming through that chicane. First lap completed.
Full respect to Hamilton on the used Inters. He's pulled a 1.9 second gap straight away. Yeah. That's very impressive.
And needed to as well, with Ricciardo right behind him. Van Dorn has a look at Lance Stroll, who locks up slightly going into turn 1. That takes him maybe a little wider than he would have wanted through turn 2. Both of these drivers, of course, racing in Singapore for the first time in their careers. We've had GP2 races here before, but Van Dorn didn't take part.
Definitely harder to drop him since he's on those new fresh tyres.
He's miffed about that, isn't he? He's like, he got something for Christmas that I didn't get.
Mercedes, damned if they did and damned if they didn't. You know, they had track position, so therefore why give it up?
Yeah, Hülkenberg beginning to find some grip in the Renault on those new Inters now, putting Sainz, his teammate for next year, under pressure.
Grosjean is tiptoeing his way around and struggling, and behind him they're queuing up. Ocon gets a really good exit, but Massa cuts him off and then down the inside. Esteban Ocon has a look on Felipe Massa, and it seems to me that Massa on those wet weather tyres is just fair game and a bit of a sitting duck for the Force India behind him. But all credit to Felipe Massa for keeping that Force India at bay. Kevin Magnussen looking to get interested on this one as well. This is a titanic little scrap going on at the moment for 11th, for 12th and 13th.
Bit surprised they didn't pull that other Williams in as well as Massa's to get it on some intermediates. He looks a bit like a sitting target there, doesn't he now, with that gang behind him. Hamilton, though, still, what's he on this lap?
Magnussen down the inside on Esteban Ocon. He locks up. Ocon tries to turn in, finds that there's nowhere to go. And Magnussen, with the better line through the right-hander at turn 14, does manage to squeeze past there. And I think Ocon was just trying to keep out of the way for a lot of that one because he realised, I think very early on there, Martin, if he defended too much, both of those cars were going to collide.
Yeah, good effort there from Magnussen. Good overtake in very, very tricky conditions.
This is Romain Grosjean getting past Felipe Massa in the intermediate tyres. And obviously Williams trying to keep Massa out without the need for intermediates, but he really is starting to struggle. And this is what it looked like from the rear wing of Esteban Ocon as Magnussen went down the side.
He found a lot of grip on that inside line, Magnussen, didn't he? That might be worth trying in a normal lap. Leaves you with a very acute angle when you get there. Oh, he's locked up the front left. I tell you what, that was right on the limit of everything. Good effort.
So, out in front, 2.3 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Ricciardo. Ricciardo on this lap, just a 10th up on the Australian. We're on board now with Kevin Magnussen, who has got Felipe Massa in his sights underneath the bridges. We go and they touch down Raffles Boulevard, but somehow Magnussen manages to keep going, locks up. And that could have been very nasty indeed as Massa comes back for more and retakes that 11th place. Down the inside, Magnussen this time manages to squeeze past Ocon on the inside as well. Makes an opportunist move, Magnussen cuts right across and almost leaves Esteban Ocon with nowhere to go. Kevin Magnussen in 11th place, Ocon 12th, and Massa now being a little bit left behind in 13th. Whoa, what a great scrap this is.
I love it. For 11th, 12th and 13th.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Hey, listen, the way this race is going, they could all be on the podium by the end of it. We've still got an hour and 17 minutes to go.
Put the kettle on, Crofty. So what else is happening up front? Palmer's just done his personal best of the race so far in 7th, catching Perez a little bit, but that late call, that late pit stop from Renault definitely cost him a lot of track position.
Right, talk us through this one again.
My eyes are going to be closed. I'm not going to be able to see it. That would have been an airplane crash if they'd have touched it. Well, they did touch. If Magnussen had actually gone in the wall, they'd have ended up right into the heart of the runoff zone in turn 7 between them.
Maybe almost in one of your suites, Martin, at the hotel.
Oh. Yeah, that was... You think I got 2 then, did you? Yeah, that, and then obviously the wily old fox that Massa is came back, but he left the door wide open into the next corner anyway. Look at Hamilton's fastest lap, 2:01.7. I really thought Ricciardo would be all over the back of the gearbox of that Mercedes on those tyres.
Well, Felipe Massa finally comes into the pits to get rid of those wet tyres. They took a bit of a gamble, I think, Williams, in trying to keep him out and see if the track could dry up fast enough so they didn't need the intermediates. But Hamilton's just been on the radio saying this track is drying so slow, and it is. Look at the sweat on Felipe Massa's face as he sat stationary in the pit box there. We forget sometimes just how horribly atrocious it is for the drivers out there and how very, very hot it gets in the cockpit. 29 seconds he was stationary for. Felipe Massa rejoins the race in 15th and last.
Can you remember how many penalty points Vettel's on? He's been collecting them up, hasn't he, lately? Has he lost any recently? Because if he is deemed to be at fault...
Somewhere on my magic wall here, I can tell you, he's on 7.
He's on 7, so if he gets to 12, he'll take a race ban or something, and or a penalty, and he might get another 3 for that going in the first corner, or they might declare it just a racing incident because everybody's leaving the start line.
Luckily for him, 2 of them come off at Malaysia because they stay on your super license, don't they, for 12 months. So after Malaysia, they should come off as well. And he's got Mexico, where he got a couple of penalty points there for tangling with the Red Bulls.
Yes,
if you remember. Getting all hot onto the collar at what they were doing towards the closing stages. But I take your point there, Martin. It's he's right up the front, along with Danny Kvyat on 10 points at the moment. Kvyat with more points on his super licence than he's got on the championship, sadly for him this season. Carlos Sainz in 4th place has Nico Hülkenberg, as you mentioned, his teammate for next year, right behind him. And with DRS enabled, able to use that as well because he's within a second. Verstappen chatting to his crew and trying to see the funny side of life as for the 7th time this season he retires early from a Grand Prix. So the only man still on wet weather tyres out there is Pascal Wehrlein, and I suppose for Sauber, Martin, absolutely nothing to lose at all.
What do you think of the conditions? How are the conditions?
There's some parts which are a bit dry, but the wet parts are still too wet.
And you can see a dry line appearing in places, but then you get the spray coming up as well. But certainly parts looking an awful lot drier than we had half an hour ago.
As soon as you get down to 2 minutes, you're within that 15% window that Paddy Lowe was talking about. as a normal rule of thumb in these circumstances. But as I mentioned earlier on, that's fine as long as you stay on line. But make a small error and run off line, and you're onto the wet stop and you're straight in the wall at very high speed.
What's interesting here is how Hamilton and Ricciardo are leaving Valtteri Bottas trailing quite a bit as well. The gap now 9.5 seconds from first to third. 6.5 seconds Valtteri Bottas trails Daniel Ricciardo. Now, DRS has been enabled. Carlos Sainz will be well aware that Nico Hülkenberg is in close touch. Now, with next year in mind, the last thing Carlos Sainz wants to do is show any weakness to Nico Hülkenberg before they become teammates at Renault for a season.
Or stick a Renault in the wall.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be good. To explain that to your new bosses.
Yes.
Cheers for the contract. Sorry about the damage. What's the gap? Hülkenberg's actually just lost a bit on that last lap. 1.2 seconds, the difference between Sainz and Hülkenberg. Sainz never finished this high up. Fourth place in his career before. Sixth in Brazil and Austin last year. And, of course, in Monaco this year is his best ever finish.
It still seems that in all of that deal with Toro Rosso, Honda, McLaren, it was expected that Sainz would move immediately to the Renault, take Jolyon Palmer's job. He's doing a fine job there in 7th place. They just forgot to tidy that up with Jolyon Palmer, or indeed even tell him that it was happening. So I think Gasly was expecting to be in the Toro Rosso Malaysia.
He was making noises at that
and
way,
Sainz was expecting to be in the Renault.
Tires are still good. This track's driving very slow.
Yeah, and Jolyon Palmer sat with, he says, a watertight contract.
Yep.
And basically saying, well, hang on, I'm reading on the internet that I'm losing my job here. Someone have a word with me.
And he's obviously hoping that he can. Here's a good little battle. Stroll and Van Dorn. This is over 8th and 9th.
Yeah, Van Dorn into 8th place, as you can see there. Ahead now of Lance Stroll, and whilst Fernando Alonso's had a massively disappointing evening for Stoffel Van Dorn, it's not working out too badly at the moment. Ted.
And our favourite aggressive Viking racer is at it again, Crofty, but now Kevin Magnussen's right on the back of his own teammate, Romain Grosjean. Magnussen's closed down a 2-second gap. Grosjean was 2 seconds ahead of Magnussen on the previous lap. Now nothing at all, 0.9 of a second. And well, what are Haas going to do here? This is going to be tasty. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton's still making fastest laps of the race. He's just been kept on in terms of everything. Whoa. Oh,
really?
And that's how Van Dorn gets past him then. Stroll locks up, and so nearly does a Daniel Kvyat. Lost track position, but at least he didn't lose his nose. Van Dorn then moving up, as we say, into P8. Sort of Massa well out of position. They really pit-stopped him in no man's land, didn't they? For those wets onto intermediates. Very aware that Paddy Lowe is probably listening to us, but it's how it looks to me.
Well, we'll get Paddy back for a little chat, and he can help explain the decision processes. On board with Nico Hülkenberg, as you can see, closer now to Carlos Sainz, using DRS as well down that back straight.
Mercedes team asking Lewis to guide them when to go to slicks, and that's the right thing. Only the driver can tell you now. All the data in the world, all the experience in the world. Look out, you can't even see the sky tonight, obviously. And you don't know, the radar obviously said there's no more rain coming. Only the driver will have the belief that the slicks will fire up, and he can keep the car within the tram tracks that are beginning to show up, the lighter grey zones where they're finally, and look at this kind of corner here. That would be very difficult on slick tyres. Yes. Spinning the wheels up, even in 3rd and 4th and 5th gears, wasn't he there in the Renault? As Massa comes back underneath the Sauber of Wehrlein. That was the 14th. There's only 15 runners now.
Yeah, we've lost a few from this race, that is for sure, and it's kind of just settling down a little bit, this Singapore Grand Prix, but don't expect it to settle down for long. It's the only wet weather tyres out on the track at the moment. And on Pascal Wehrlein's Sauber. Sauber hoping we get another safety car, I think, here. And they can get rid of those tyres, maybe, if they're on the track at the right time, right place, like they were in Barcelona with Wehrlein. Well, you might be able to do something then. Felipe Massa strolling past.
But it takes you 28 seconds to make a pit stop. There's no point in hanging on and losing seconds per lap on rubbish tyre, on the wrong tyres. You're just dreaming then. Even if there is a safety car, you'd be too far behind.
I suppose their theory, Martin, is we see this move again. They're going to be at the back. The Ferrari 2016 engine now really being exposed in terms of its lack of power. We've got little to lose by doing that.
Yeah, but you'll always be at the back with that mentality of, you know, what is he going round in? Wehrlein, 2 minutes 11. That's 11 seconds slower than the leader. So you might as well, you know, give it 3 laps and you've more than thrown away a pit stop.
Put it this way, he could well be lapped if he doesn't come in the pits now. Yes, he's coming into the pits now. See, they do listen to us down on the pit wall as well.
Will he put slicks on it? Will Wehrlein be the first man onto slick tyres?
Well, Ted, can you see it?
I think he will. I think this is what their plan would have been all along, after they've already changed from wet tyre to wet tyre. So I'm just peering down. I'm actually at Mercedes now. I can't quite see down. Maybe we can get a shot on the world feed, but surely that's going to be straight onto slicks. But then that's dropping Pascal Wehrlein into one heck of a challenge, isn't it? There you go, Pascal. First guy onto slicks. Off you go. Let's see what you can do. Actually, the data, I'm just waiting for it to update itself, says intermediates, Crofty.
Right.
The app says intermediates from Pirelli.
Just changing our commentary box now to say intermediates. Yes.
Well, that's a bit of a waste.
Oh, that was bold.
Go on.
So, the Red Bull, we believe, is faster around here than the Mercedes. He's on fresher tyres. Ricciardo's been on fire all weekend, and Hamilton's pulled away by 4.2 seconds. Just gone down a little bit on the previous lap, but what a masterclass performance by Hamilton.
No more rain expected.
I say no more rain expected.
Yeah. So Hamilton's done a fastest of anybody through the first sector, so he's not struggling for grip. The track will just keep coming to them all the time, and you push a little bit more each lap. You'll always leave time on the table because you just have to creep up on it. Just get, as Kvyat found out, just a bit too bold in one corner. Boom, it all goes quiet, and you're going home.
So if no more rain's expected, then the next call the teams have got to make here is just when can we come in for slick tyres? When is it going to be dry enough out on the track? And as you say, Martin, that's up to the driver really to decide on that one. When they feel comfortable enough, you can see the dry lines appearing, but you can just see the moisture in the air, keeping it damp in parts on the track as well.
Yeah, what they really want is somebody gung-ho in the midfield to stick a set of slicks on it.
He'd stick a set of slicks on at the moment.
He might stick a bunch of 5s on somebody.
He's coming off from the Ferrari motorhome now to come and have a little chat with the media, and we'll hear what Kimi's got to say.
And Kimi loves talking to the media, doesn't he? Especially when he's had a good day.
Nothing Kimi Räikkönen likes more than a chat with Craig Slater, a third of a way through a Grand Prix.
Oh dear, oh dear. It's a shame for all of us.
I hope Craig's got his tin helmet on down there in the media pen. So looking at the battles out on the track, Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean separated by about a second and a half, down in 11th place. Esteban Ocon is starting to get a bit closer, as you can see there, to Kevin Magnussen. He's going to be going from a very long way back if he's going to make the move on Magnussen that Magnussen made on him, maybe a lap's time.
Looks like Ocon starting to try to look for the wetter patches on the racetrack now to cool his intermediates down. Still in P12, as you can see on your screen.
Sergio Perez, Nico Hülkenberg separated by a couple of seconds. Jolyon Palmer lapping pretty much at the same pace as Perez down in 7th. There's a bit of a gap then back to Stoffel Van Dorn, as you can see, currently in 8th. Out in front, 4.4 seconds, 4.5 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Ricciardo.
We haven't got to half distance yet in terms of laps. It'll definitely time out in this race, won't it? But it's a difficult call. It looks like it's getting ready for slick tyres, but then I was first man onto slicks in the 93 Grand Prix that Senna pitted 7 times or whatever, and with that incredible that legendary performance of his, and I was also the first man. I was convinced it was ready for slicks. I was also the first man to spin off on slick tyres as well at Donington that day. So
you get no credit for that either, do you? Everyone talks about that Grand Prix of Europe. You know that great lap by Senna, but no one ever says Martin Brundle was the first man on slicks.
I was convinced it was right, and it would be all right, but it was pretty slimy that day on the surface, and not unlike it's going to be out there today.
At what point in your outlap were you convinced that you'd still made the right decision?
Oh, I was convinced that I was going in the gravel trap, to be honest, that I was a maestro.
So Magnussen and Ocon. And this is shaping up into a neat little battle as Pascal Wehrlein, after his pit stop, has now been lapped.
Okay, Nico, we think in the event of a safety car, it would be dry tyres. Please confirm.
Skeptical about that, especially behind the safety car.
Wow.
We lose all the temperature.
Yeah, but it might
Still
be.
a lot of damp patches.
I'm surprised at that.
Message understood. Okay, Nico.
What he's saying is, yeah, we'll trundle around behind the safety car and then I'll have zero grip when he pits.
That's different, of course, though, to racing. You know, if you're going around at a more racing speed.
Yeah. Well, they obviously realise they're in the, a safety car, especially if somebody does pit for slicks. You know, the chances of it being a safety car for an incident doubles, I'd imagine, at that point. But that's an interesting comment from Hulkenberg. He's not shy, is he, in these conditions?
Guys, box now.
Right.
Box for dry tyres.
Kevin Magnussen comes into the pits. Here is the Martin Brundle Donington 93 bold gamble by the bad boy Kevin Magnussen. He's convinced, his team are convinced that now is a good time to go onto the slick tyres, and every single other pit wall is watching this. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, and I think it's the right idea, because I said he did come at the back of his teammate Romain Grosjean and then got absolutely nowhere, and that's a bit slow there, and then was being hassled from behind by Esteban Ocon. I wonder if he was trying to pass Grosjean but knew he couldn't or wasn't allowed to, or just didn't have the pace anyway. Massa's followed him in now. Yeah, Massa's going to be brave as well. Come on, lads.
What he's got to be able to do is get out and get on. Keep temperature in those tyres, because the slower you go, the more you lose temperature. The slower you go, the more you lose temperature.
And the trouble is, he comes out onto a part of the track, Martin, 2, 3, 4 and then 5, which is probably the most damp part of the track at the moment. Lots of trees and flyovers around there, and the moisture just hanging around in the air a bit more.
But it's definitely drivers at the back who've got not a whole lot to lose by taking a gamble like this.
So he comes back out onto the track, does Kevin Magnussen, in 13th place, Felipe Massa in 14th. And we'll look at his sector times as Hamilton puts in the new fastest lap of the race, and the first time we've gone under 2 minutes. A 1:59.9 from Lewis Hamilton.
It's definitely into that 15% window as well now. The rule of thumb Paddy Lowe talked about.
Ricciardo is saying on the radio it's still greasy. We're not ready for dry tyres just yet. This was the problem with Kevin Magnussen's pit stop. That
left front didn't go on the stub axle properly.
He was just a little bit long on his marks there as well, which doesn't help with a swift pit stop. Talking of which, here's Williams, who've been making swift pit stops very much a trademark of their own this season. And last as well. So Magnussen's just there or thereabouts. He's done a 49 on this lap, a 49.4 for the middle sector.
Useful information for the front runners. It looks like he's ready for slicks, doesn't it? Let's be honest, it really does. But Hamilton's about to catch a slick-shod Williams that looks like he can barely get out of the corner at the moment.
I suppose in a couple of laps' time, when those tyres are a little bit more into the temperature that a driver would like, that's when they will be hoping, Magnussen and Massa, that they'll start to reap the benefits.
The last thing Felipe Massa needs at the moment is to pull off line and let the leader through. So he's doing it in a sensible place where it gives him least pain and puts Lewis onto the wet side of the track, so he can stay on the dry side of the track without incurring the wrath of the leader.
6.8 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Ricciardo at the end of the last lap.
Is Lewis? I thought Lewis was heading for pit lane, but he moved back to the outside as well. They're not really lighting the track up on those slicks, are they?
No. Not at this moment in time. Hamilton 2 minutes, 0.5 as he laps Felipe Massa on that particular lap. Ricciardo crosses the line, 6.6 seconds, the gap between the pair. See, look, going around turn 3, Martin, you can see still a lot of spray there. And that's the part of the track you come out from the pit lane onto. You can understand the trepidation of some drivers that it is still a bit greasy for us.
And the Mercedes-Benz has got more downforce than the Williams or the Haas. It's a better car, frankly. That's clear to see, isn't it? Through the given season. So he'll be able to fire the slicks up before the others, I would have thought, in that Mercedes. And again, Lewis is not shy of making the big call, and he's clearly not ready to take the gamble at the moment. But we're getting close to that point as we've got another pit. We've got Stroll in the pits too.
Is this the correct tyre? Is the track dry enough for this?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay.
Right, and on that call from Massa, Lance Stroll comes in as well and will change for a set of ultra soft tyres, one would imagine, and does.
Magnussen doing personal bests now. He's getting up and running, and Massa saying it's the right tyre. So we've come to the swap over point.
So 58 minutes to go. We're past halfway distance, really, and what we're pretty certain is going to be a timed race here in Singapore this evening. Started amidst heavy rain in chaotic fashion as Verstappen got away well, and then Raikkonen got away very well off the line. Raikkonen careering into Verstappen as the pincer movement from the Ferraris left the Red Bull driver with nowhere to go. That incident took out both Verstappen and Raikkonen, and Fernando Alonso eventually. He got hit in the resulting carnage. Sebastian Vettel, who was leading the race, then suffered damage as he went into the wall before turn 5, and that left both Ferraris out of a race. For the first time in Formula One World Championship history, when they've entered two cars into a race, they have lost both cars on the first lap.
Magnussen now fastest man in the entire race in the first sector. Time for slicks. Check. I assume we're going to see plenty of pit stops.
Track's still very greasy, and these tyres are still doing good.
Yeah, he does. Low risk, isn't it? Low risk approach. He knows he's been hand at present today, but he doesn't want to risk anything. Everybody else is starting to come in. Yeah. Mercedes are getting the dry tyres available and ready in their pit box for Bottas and for Hamilton. Maybe it will be Bottas first, but the other benefit of switching to slicks now, guys, is that we're going to get rid of these annoying red rain lights that have been on the whole race, that apparently in this dark night race have been a nightmare for the drivers following. They've been very, very bright in their eyes. So they've been here complaining on the pit radio.
I'm amazed Red Bull haven't taken that gamble as well. They might as well pit a lap before the Mercedes, mightn't they?
Problem there for Stoffel Van Dorn with the front left not going on right, and he finally gets out in the race. Carlos Sainz, we mentioned and we saw coming into the pits. Nico Hülkenberg has stayed out, so Hülkenberg goes up to 4th. Perez stays out as well. Esteban Ocon gets a change of tyres first at Force India. Jolyon Palmer up to 6th. Sainz now down into 7th. Stoffel Van Dorn back out onto the track in 8th place. And we can ride on board with the Force India making his way out of the pit lane, and Grosjean in front of him. Kevin Magnussen is now coming round after just setting a fastest lap. Magnussen is going to get ahead of his teammate there, and he didn't leave Grosjean either. He didn't leave many room, and it did look like they touched. Martin, yes.
I saw a little piece of carbon fibre flicking up there. Let's hope it hasn't punctured the left rear of Magnussen. But so that early stop for Magnussen then really leapfrogged him up the field nicely.
It's put him up into the points as Hamilton sets a new fastest lap of the race, a 1:58.4. Ricciardo is into the pits. Hamilton stays out, and Red Bull have now responded and decided it is a good time to pit Daniel Ricciardo. So what do Mercedes do with Valtteri Bottas? Do they keep him out on the track to try and hold Ricciardo up a bit, or does he pit as well? Bottas is coming into the pits.
So Hamilton had an 8-second advantage, so he can afford one more lap on what has now become the wrong tyres, and he's still pumping in fastest sectors, though, is Hamilton. Such is his pace this afternoon.
Hülkenberg pits for Renault. Jolyon Palmer stays out. Palmer moves up into the podium places by staying out. Sergio Perez now comes in for Force India as well. Looks really slow in the pit lane, doesn't it? 60 kilometres an hour, because this is a street race, of course. They've widened the fast lane, but not enough to make it 80 kilometres an hour.
Where they have to be most careful is the pit lane. This seems to be the wettest part, unsurprisingly, because it's not getting the traffic of the rest of it. But once they get out of the pit lane, It looks like as long as they don't run wide through turn 3, they're away. And there then is Palmer.
Yeah, in second. On the weekend where Jolyon Palmer learned that he needs a new seat somewhere for 2018, he's now running in second place. He will lose that when he comes into pit at the end of this lap, you would have thought, but enjoy it while you can, Jolyon. Second place and ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, as you can see on the track. So Magnussen still pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap.
And box, 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 box.
And Hamilton has, well, just acres of time to make his way into the pits and can afford to lose 29 seconds or so and still have a comfortable lead when he comes back out again. And is Ted Kravitz coming into the pit lane now.
Yep, and it's the ultra soft tyres. So Hamilton wanted to know that on the radio, whether it was going to be the soft or whatever. I think they can get to the end on the ultra soft, but hey, it's still a long turn to go. Nice stop, very safe and sound. Belt and braces, it's all they need from this point in.
They reckon, to Pirelli, 30 laps for the ultra soft to last during the course of this race. That's pretty much what he's got to go.
Sliding around they do on this track. It's a pretty green surface now, isn't it, in terms of not rubbered in as we would normally see on the weekend. And Ricciardo nowhere near the pit straight yet as Hamilton exits into what's very wet on the outside there of turn 3.
Right, this is Esteban Ocon that we're on board with now. Romain Grosjean, the car ahead of him. Grosjean, I'm sure, will have been a bit miffed at the lack of space that his teammate afforded him when he came out of the pits.
They always merge there, don't they? The pit exit and the apex of turn 3 becomes one and the same thing.
Certainly does. So it's all settling down as Jolyon Palmer now pits from the podium places. Where will he come back out? Will he be ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn, or has Palmer lost out to Van Dorn in this round of pit stops? And I think he's going to lose out to Stoffel Van Dorn. I'm just keeping an eye on that whilst we watch on board with Esteban Ocon.
No, I think he's come out. I think Palmer's come out in front of Van Dorn.
He has? Well, good.
Just behind Wehrlein at the moment, who he's lapping. According to the driver tracker here, yes, he is ahead of Van Dorn in what will then be 7th place, won't it?
7th, yes. Behind Sergio Perez. Stoffel Van Dorn actually at a 1:54.3 as a new fastest lap of this race.
The problem now with these conditions is overtaking is doubly difficult, Crofty, because you know, off the racing line is pretty tacky still, isn't it? So, not the right word, is it? Slippery's the right word, but you know, you're going to get brave up the inside. You've got a double helping of wet track for good measure, and that's how close Palmer and Van Dorn turned out to be, as Palmer feels his way round on the slick tyres. Van Dorn's got the experience, another lap or two on those. Unfortunately, they didn't pit. Oh, he's got
down the inside goes Stoffel Van Dorn. Now Palmer will try and switch back and get better traction out of turn 13 and gets back past from Stoffel Van Dorn. A bold move and a lunge down the inside from the Belgian, and Palmer was wise to it. Let him go deep into the corner and regain the place.
Yeah, Palmer's finding out what he's got on slick tyres. Van Dorn already knows that, and Van Dorn knows he's got to seize while the iron's hot. Now he's taking too much curb and run a little bit wide in the McLaren behind us. But Palmer might just have that one covered now.
You can't take too much curb because they're still going to be very wet, of course, as well. You don't want to be riding over them too much. Nico Hülkenberg's now setting new fastest lap of the race. He's actually only 1.3 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas now.
And the Renault's coming alive. It was good in the dry, wasn't it, as well in qualifying. So Palmer can hold that track position, which it looks like he can do now. The Renault, Hülkenberg's time, that's very impressive indeed.
Don't forget, Hülkenberg trying not to have the outright record for the most starts in Formula One without a podium position. And if he can get third in this race, he'll just share the record instead. It won't be his for the keeping. He'll share it with Adrian Sutil, the former Force India driver. Sergio Perez is putting a lot of pressure on Carlos Sainz, as well as Van Dorn is going for it down the inside. No way through on this occasion.
Okay, Jolyon, you've got to get to the end of this race, but you also need to put something a little bit special in. Fighting for his F1 career now. And Van Dorn's been driving beautifully all weekend too. There's some points there for these two.
Well, this is a decent haul of points for Renault at the moment, and they certainly need those in the championship. And getting to a stage in the season where they need both drivers to be scoring points.
They got Phil Massa fastest, look, down in 13th of the 15 runners.
Yep, he's got a few. He's catching up. Esteban Ocon, Ocon's catching up on Grosjean, but Massa's got 25 seconds to catch up.
That's
on the Frenchman.
New benchmark from Hamilton, but beaten by Ricciardo.
Now,
why didn't Red Bull pit him a lap earlier than the McLaren, I wonder? Than the Mercedes, I should say, sorry.
That gap, though, has grown to 8.6 seconds.
It's about, where was it? Yeah, it was about that when they pitted, actually, and Hülkenberg quicker again. He's really on it.
Yeah, as is Sergio Perez. New one-year deal at Force India, signing with the team to remain for at least one more season, and now has Carlos Sainz very much in his sights, and he'll get, of course, DRS down the next straight.
Ricciardo 3/10 up on Hamilton on this lap.
Now Sainz will look in his mirrors and think, right, how do I defend this? Where do I go to make life very hard indeed for the Mercedes-powered Force India as down Raffles Boulevard with the DRS wide open. Here comes Sergio Perez. He's going to go and try round the outside at turn 7. He's going to go the long way round. Turns on in, and Carlos Sainz with that inside line just manages to stay ahead. Can he beat him into the next right-hander? No.
He's going to head in the wall there for a moment. Yeah, Sainz is a bit too wise and smart to let that one happen.
But is that the first dummy, Martin? And on the next lap, he goes down the inside.
He might do. Certainly it's not going to work. Carlos is late enough on the brakes that you can tick that one off in terms of potential overtaking. This is where Van Dorn went steaming up the inside of Palmer, didn't it? It didn't quite work out for him.
Is this the stage where Perez needs to be just a little bit patient and tears off another visor strip? Knows that with DRS an opportunity is going to come. So, like on a nice cloudy day at Lord's, where the outswinger is beating the batsman time after time, it's the inswinger that then eventually gets them.
Yeah, he's going to have to go left up the inside into 7. You're right. But Ricciardo, a couple of tenths quicker again than Hamilton. Hülkenberg still right in there, lap time wise, with Bottas as well. The 3rd and 4th.
And just to make Carlos Sainz's life that much more easy, there's a back marker in the way of the Sauber there, and Sergio Perez is almost nudging him through the final couple of corners here, separated by just a matter of meters, as he's got DRS once more, but this straight hasn't necessarily been long enough for cars to get past so far this evening here in Singapore. But he's sticking close to his task, is Sergio Perez.
So when he goes through turn 6, that's 4. 5's a very quick right-hander, then he'll get DRS again. He's going to have to go left, but it's so bumpy if you go around there. He's not actually that close this time around, but if he goes to the left of him,
he's going to have a chance.
So bumpy on the braking zone.
He's going to have a chance. He is going to go down the inside, is he? Later under the braking, Carlos Sainz locks up, but manages to keep the car under control.
Smart from Sainz. He left him. He saw he was deep. He left him a little bit of breathing room there. You know, it doesn't matter whose fault the crash is. Avoiding somebody running into you is as important as not crashing yourself.
Yep, and having that little lock-up himself, but still keeping the car under control, not going too wide.
Yeah, it just shows you awareness. You know, he's controlling the car, and he's got capacity left to work out what's going on around him as well.
23 years of age. Carlos Sainz in his 53rd Grand Prix. He's about 5 races off being the most experienced Toro Rosso driver ever, but he won't be there next season.
Horrible exit Perez had there, off the bridge.
Yeah. Out in front, another fastest lap from Lewis Hamilton, 9.5 seconds clear of Daniel Ricciardo, as you might be able to see. Valtteri Bottas a long way back in 3rd.
Where's the Red Bull pace gone from practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, qualifying?
Disappeared.
They just thrashed Mercedes through there, didn't they? And now can't live with him. It's very strange.
I spoke to someone at Red Bull before this race. I said, are you convinced you've got the race pace to beat Ferrari? They went, yeah, we've got the race pace to win this today. And Mercedes, that were coming into the race with damage limitation on their minds, well, suddenly have the pace that they've been asking for all weekend long. The way it stands, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton will extend his championship lead to 28 points by the end of the night if he can hang on to this win, with Sebastian Vettel, of course, out of the race. And Renault, as it stands, will move ahead of Haas and Toro Rosso in the championship. There goes Sergio Perez, Esteban Ocon, I should say, into turn one on Kevin Magnussen. Good move from Esteban Ocon. These two have been dicing and scrapping away all race long. Now he's going to have to put up with a Haas with DRS, pushing him all the way into the next corner.
I don't know if Magnussen had a problem coming up the last corner, but it's very unusual to see somebody clean past you down the outside into turn one.
So Esteban Ocon then up into 11th place. It's Romain Grosjean is the next car before he can get himself in the points.
Presso il button. Come on, shut up.
His brakes are looking pretty hot on that Haas as well. That's another thing you've got to get right when you've not run in the rain, in the wet conditions, is your brake cooling. I'm assuming that they would have gone with dry brake cooling. Yeah. You generate so much more brake temperature in the dry. You brake much later, much harder.
Where's that Red Bull pace? It's come on the last lap. Ricciardo set the fastest lap. He's gone to 9.4 seconds behind Hamilton at the end of the lap. 9.3 now. Ted, down to you.
I was going to say, Crofty, don't speak too soon on Red Bull, because, of course, remember, they set their car up to protect the rear tyres. That was what the game was, wasn't it, in Friday practice? Because we saw other people, including Mercedes, overheating their rear tyres and having to manage them. So, well, as we go on, then Red Bull will be looking in good shape on that point, and maybe Mercedes' pace will drop off a little bit.
I hear what you say, Ted, and I agree with you, but they've let Hamilton get 9.5 seconds ahead. It's going to take some pulling back.
Brooks, we've still got, what, 40 minutes?
42.5 minutes.
Of all the things that happened, we've still got 42 minutes to go.
and
I love this.
We're hearing, Ted, Martin, Renault telling Nico Hülkenberg on the team radio that it will go to 59 laps, they predict, for this race. So 2 laps short of the full complement.
So maybe those ultra-softs won't make it to the end.
59-lap race. Hamilton's went on lap 29. They'll do 30 laps, won't they? Especially at this pace.
Fully focused,
just ducking under the 150s. Remember, pole was
a 1:39.4. So the fastest lap ever here.
So they've got rid of over half their fuel, and they're still 10 seconds off pole. So, and Hamilton now into the 48s. So it's not exactly an electric pace in terms of burning your tyres.
This battery, we are shut up, please.
Yeah, it's always difficult. The engineers feel they need to tell the driver that there might be a problem with the battery. The driver says, do you realise I've got this pink monster behind me that rather fancies my 4th place? Will you just let me get on with it?
When you see them dancing around on the steering wheel as well, as Max Verstappen sadly joins us as a spectator.
I wish he would join us. He's got nothing else to do.
He should come up there, shouldn't he? And you see the drivers. I mean, this is. When I went around with Paul di Resta in the medical car the other night, the corners just come at you thick and fast in a road car, a fast road car with a great driver at the wheel, but in an F1 car. And then they're working the brake bias and all sorts of stuff on the steering wheel. I can understand why they're feeling overloaded when somebody wants to have a chat with them.
And it's not an easy place to hear people as well in Singapore. They work very hard, the teams, to make the radio as crystal clear as possible, but a lot of buildings rather get in the way here. And Carlos Sainz looked to me like he was starting to pull away a bit from Sergio Perez. That's very much not the case at the moment. Perez is half a second quicker on this lap so far than the Toro Rosso.
Palmer's dropped Van Dorn out of the DRS zone as well to cement his 7th at the moment. Perez, fastest man in the first sector of anybody, with a rather nice slipstream and DRS then behind Sainz.
For the night sky, and the lights burning bright underneath it. Singapore at Grand Prix time. If you remember back to 2014 here, Lewis Hamilton won. His title rival Nico Rosberg scored 0 points that particular evening. Lewis winning the championship at the end of the season. Are we going to see something similar in 2017, I wonder as well? What an opportunity this could have been for Sebastian Vettel tonight, but out on the first lap by the time the drivers got to the 5th turn, and Hamilton starting 5th on the grid, making up for all the carnage around him and taking a lead that he has not looked like relinquishing so far in this race. He's a full 9 seconds ahead of Daniel Ricciardo here. Ricciardo been on the receiving end of a second place for the last couple of years. Is he going to make that a hat-trick here in Singapore tonight?
Some nasty oversteer there from Sainz as he turned into turn 3. He's on the podium at the moment, Valtteri Bottas, but it's not been a great weekend for him. He's currently 25 seconds behind his leading teammate at the moment and really struggle for pace.
What do they do on the Ferrari pit wall when both of their cars are out of the race, I wonder then?
Throw marbles when the Mercedes come or something? I don't know. You're right. What are they learning up there now?
Anyway, Mauricio Riva-Benny's already got off his chair. Well, he can come and have a chat with the media, couldn't he? That'd be nice. Come and have a little conversation with us about the evening's
He fed up with me or something. It's 20 years. He wanted somebody else to. Do you want me to go?
I think so for a while.
Nico Hülkenberg with a very iconic number 27. And he's kind of in no man's land now. 6 seconds behind Bottas. 8 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz.
Thing is, though, repeat what I said just a couple of laps ago, they'll go ahead of Haas and Toro Rosso at the moment. So Bottas locks up there. It might be in no man's land, but this is a really, really good race for Renault. Jolyon Palmer, you know that transponder issue that he had in qualifying where we couldn't work out his time? I'm just wondering if he's not got a problem with his transponder again out on the track.
He's on the missing list.
Yeah,
that's bizarre. That's weeks on end now. They've struggled to get that car to register.
Yeah.
On the system, on the computer.
I think he's got problems with his radio as well. I'm just learning. The radio's kind of breaking up, so it's not completely plain sailing for him. And the yellow flag's being waved in sector 9, and there is the reason why.
There'll be a safety
Sauber
car
of Marcus Ericsson facing the wrong way. And look,
don't drive it down there.
He has hit the wall. Martin is right.
Yeah.
His left rear tyre, I should say.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just panicking because I thought he was going to drive towards the entrance of the bridge. So unless he can,
he's on the Anderson Bridge.
He's not going to be able to reverse. It's got to be safety car. He cannot reverse that car.
What?
And I would have gone out the back of the commentary box if he'd have driven it the other way.
So this is, he lost it on the entry to the bridge, slid sideways. Barely enough room to get a car at that angle across that bridge. Yeah. Anderson Bridge, built in 1910, not to take Formula One cars across it.
It's the 10th time we've been here. Have you ever seen a car crash on the bridge?
No.
All okay, Marcus?
Now it's over.
Yeah, I can see the rear. Your rear left is gone. Switch off the car.
Yeah, copy.
No, I've never seen a car on the bridge either. Felipe Massa has come into the pits for a change of tyres. Now, Hamilton is staying out. I wonder if behind the safety car, this is a free pit stop for some out there as well.
It makes full sense because he's effectively last, Massa, 13th. He's got Wehrlein still out there, but that'll be an easy car to overtake. So why not get a fresh set of tyres just in case?
Third time tonight, then, we have the safety car out on track. He's picked up Felipe Massa. It's ahead.
I wonder if Red Bull might see this as an opportunity. Everyone's going to concertina up. Why don't they get Ricciardo?
Why another safety car? Surely DSC would work.
He doesn't like the safety car, does he?
I worked hard to build up this lead, he says. I worked hard.
Shaking his head, putting his hands on his steering wheel. Oh, for heaven's sake.
It's a valid point, although they've got to get people onto the bridge in vehicles.
Yeah.
They might want the pack collected up in case they have the red flag, but it's not an unreasonable point to make. Why not do the virtual safety car, slow us all down, cover it with double wave yellows?
Makes it more interesting when you get the safety car, though.
It is a blind corner onto a confined bridge.
Correct.
It's not your normal supermarket car park he's run off into, is it?
Yeah. now Hulkenberg's coming to the pits.
It's got a problem, hasn't it?
Refill the pneumatic system, it looks like.
Oh, no.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's the air bottle,
the hydraulics. It looks like they're refilling the hydraulics.
Oh, the hydraulics.
Oh, this is cruel luck for Nico Hulkenberg, who was running in 4th place. And if he's lucky, he'll come out behind Kevin Magnussen at this moment in time, and he'll be down in about 12th place. Esteban Ocon pits as well for Force India for a fresh set of tyres. And also Magnussen actually pitting now for Haas as well. So Hamilton, Ricciardo, Bottas, Sainz and Perez, Palmer, Van Dorn, Stroll, Grosjean and Hulkenberg, who is back out on the track in 10th place now. Nico Hulkenberg, because Ocon and Magnussen behind stopped at the pits as well. That is really costly for Renault and for Nico Hulkenberg. Cruel luck he's had here this evening compared to Max Verstappen, who's had the cruelest of luck. It really fades into insignificance, I suppose. Verstappen in his last race as a teenager in Formula One, out by the first corner, and we can hear from him now.
Max, I dare say you'll have watched the incident back a few times. Who is to blame for you standing here now?
Well, I think mainly Sebastian, he started squeezing me. Maybe he didn't see Kimi on the left, but, that's not an excuse. I think if you are fighting for the World Championship, you shouldn't take those risks to really, squeeze someone that much. And, you can see what happens, Lewis is leading the race, and the 3 of us are out. I tried to back out of it because I could see it coming, but the rear tires are wider than the front, so I couldn't back out of it anymore. And suspension damage, and then into the first corner, those things can happen because Kimi had only 2 tires left.
I mean, is it a racing incident, or is it the sort of thing you'd expect some punishment for Vettel?
I don't think it was a racing incident. At the end of the day, they take in total 3 cars out, and I was in the middle without doing anything wrong. I was just trying to have a clean start, but we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, I'm happy that not only me or I retired, but all the 3 of us. So that we all have a bit of pain.
Would you have won the race this evening?
Difficult to say, but at least we had a good chance.
Thank you.
So maybe a bit of karma as far as Max Verstappen is concerned there. There's previous, isn't there? Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. Remember back to Belgium last season at the start on that one as well. But I think he's looking for a big punishment.
The kid was driving in a straight line. As he said, there's nothing he could do to get pinched, but...
Where is everyone? It's taking a while to close the pack.
So,
safety car's gotten so slow, he just can't keep temperature in.
So it is a safety car situation, because you want the crocodile. You want to know exactly where all the cars are. You've got to get a truck onto what is actually a restricted part of racetrack, isn't it? It's 2 lanes wide.
Got a crane down there.
Yeah, it's 2 lanes wide there, Croft. It's it's a highly unusual piece of Formula One racetrack. And if you've got the crocodile all backed up, you're going to have some quiet time every 2 or 3 minutes.
Right, let's go back after hearing from Max Verstappen to the start here. Now, he basically thinks, good, Ferrari are both out, that's what they deserve, look what they tried to do to me.
Yeah, nothing I see there changes my mind from when I first called it, Crofty. It was, you can see why Alonso had a lot of damage as well. And, this is the problem. Vettel was going across the track at 30-degree angle and squeezing the 2. He would never see in his mirrors that the other car was there. But then, as Verstappen said, why take the risk when you're leading the World Championship? Yeah. And it sounds more to me like he just dropped it with too much throttle. But we know there was coolant and other liquids probably coming out of the car. Whether he drove over his own fluid from the contact or what, we don't know. When that spins around, he's done this trick before. Do you remember Brazil, when he was trying to win the World Championship, to reverse out of the way to minimise the chance of having suspension damage? When he spins around, we'll see there's quite a lot of damage, if I remember.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, so that, I believe, look at all the coolant coming out of his side pod. That, I believe, is why he spun off, actually, the more I see that.
And that's Sebastian Vettel when he came back into the paddock. We've heard from him, we've heard from Max Verstappen. Let's hear from the third part of that trio. Kimi Räikkönen with Craig Slater.
Kimi, can you talk us through the end of your race? Is it anyone's fault in particular you're standing here now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's always different views of whoever watches this, but I don't think I could have really done anything differently to avoid it. And made a good start, but then obviously got hit, and our race was done. So yeah, it's a shame.
So maybe Sebastian being surprised by just how good a start you made, maybe didn't know that Max was going to be squeezed between the two of you.
I don't know. I obviously knew where he is, and I went past him and then got taken out by the rear corner. Whatever the cause of the accident is, it's, you know, the end result unfortunately don't change anymore. Which way ever you look or blame, it's, you know, the results are what they are right now, and that doesn't change. So it's a bit pointless to start.
I would imagine that if the car on pole hadn't have been his teammate, Kimi Räikkönen wouldn't be saying it's pointless to start blaming people now.
Yeah.
He's not really in a position where he can have a go at Seb there, is he?
No, where he knows that's politically not a smart thing to do, but you know, the blame can only be pointed in one direction. So they're finally getting that Sauber out of the way, and there's a safety service road there on the inside of the track. So presumably we can get underway. Will they let the one and only lapped car in 14th place, Pascal Wehrlein, will they let him go through and unlap himself? We'll wait to see, or will we just crack on? Problem is, Wehrlein's sort of right in the middle of the pack, isn't he?
He's just ahead, I think, of Carlos Sainz, so that they'll want him out of the way.
Yeah. So Verstappen's starting to go left because he sees the Ferrari coming his way.
Yeah.
Oof. And we heard him on the radio, didn't we? He was talking about contact on the radio when he got the hit again. And look at the angle of... Initially, Verstappen does go right, then he has to keep going to go left again. Whether he was giving Räikkönen some space on the inside.
Can I ask as well, Martin, that maybe the silly question here, did Sebastian Vettel need to come over to the left as far as he did?
That's the point that Verstappen was making.
Yeah.
Why take that risk? Why go and squeeze another car? Because the chances of hitting that car are very high. He didn't need to go. He didn't need to put the squeeze on.
No.
I still think they'll end up saying it was a start line incident in the end. Oh, look at the back end of that Mercedes swinging around.
Let's see, safety car coming in, and we can get racing again. And a field that had been quite far spread out has now been closed right up. And Pascal Wehrlein is right in the thick of it. They actually haven't let him unlap himself. They just want to get racing again. Hamilton leads them across the line from Ricciardo, and down the straight he's still weaving around, trying to get temperature into those tyres. Bottas a lot closer to Ricciardo. Perez has a look on Sainz. Then comes Jolyon Palmer just ahead of Stoffel Van Dorn. Perez is really sticking to Carlos Sainz there. Now Esteban Ocon's having a look on Nico Hülkenberg as well, as Romain Grosjean just behind. Locks up a break. Down towards turn 5 we go, and someone will be looking to make a move the next time we get to one of the 16 braking zones at the end of this long Raffles Boulevard straight. But who is in a position to make a move? There's the Force India of Esteban Ocon on Nico Hülkenberg behind. Felipe Massa is having a go at Kevin Magnussen. Massa manages to squeeze past. Good move from him, takes him up into 12th place.
A lot of these drivers with fresh tyres on as well. They took the opportunity at the back to have a pit stop. How close is this now? And so important, as we pointed out earlier in the race, ages ago, Crofty, for all of these key teams in the middle of the pack.
Ocon, we right on board with now as we head past what used to be a chicane and has now become just a standard left-hander over the Anderson Bridge, where Marcus Ericsson had his moments of misfortune about 5 laps ago, and Hamilton getting away very nicely indeed, 1.7 seconds clear of Daniel Ricciardo. Valtteri Bottas a lot closer now to Ricciardo and trying to put pressure on him, but behind the scrap is being fought out between the Hasses, the Williams, the Force Indias and the Renaults, and the one solitary McLaren still running in this race of Stoffel Van Dorn.
25 minutes remaining then, and the pack all closed up. Wehrlein has dropped to the back about the lap runner. We didn't waste time letting him through, thankfully. And there's Palmer now up into 6th place, putting a bit of air between him and Van Dorn, who's got Stroll for company, and then the rest of the gang.
Lap 55, we're now thinking will be the final lap of this Grand Prix. 24 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and we might have 6 laps less of the scheduled full distance. That means that by the end of it, Hamilton will be, just looking here, we're about 25 laps for both Hamilton and Ricciardo on those ultra-soft tyres.
So we'll be getting the DRS shortly, 2 laps after the restart.
But look, there's Ocon switching around, trying to find a gap to get past Hulkenberg. Did jinx to the right, then goes left, and Kevin Magnussen's rather outbraked himself in the Haas at the end of that straight, and has got now detached from the back of that pack.
Yeah, he was effectively running last of that pack anyway, only Wehrlein behind him a lap down. But as you say, he's fallen right off the back. But there's some squabbling going to go on here, isn't there? Hulkenberg, we know what a fast car he's got, but that technical issue having to top up, we think the hydraulic system, or the pneumatic system, I think I should call it, in the pits has put him well out of position now, and only just inside the World Championship points. But Ocon and Massa fancy a helping of that.
Along the Esplanade Bridge they go. Long way back, Felipe Massa making a decent fist of some late braking there and catching up to Esteban Ocon, too far back to make the move. We ride back on board again with the Frenchman. You can see, Martin, how it looks still really damp offline, but they're reporting now normal grip conditions in this race. What is normal grip conditions in Singapore? It's 76% humidity.
Dry, I imagine they mean, all the way around. So DRS now enabled at the end as Hamilton completes that. And who's going to get that in the pack? They're very, very close, aren't they?
They are.
Stroll. Got Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Massa, they're all within DRS.
Stroll is the one that's going to be under pressure here from Grosjean behind him. So Grosjean, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Massa will all get DRS down that straight, but Lance Stroll won't, because he's a bit too far behind Stoffel Van Dorn. So he could find them coming at him from all angles.
Here we go. Rear wings open.
And we tee it all up. There goes Ocon, having a look on Hulkenberg once again. We tee it all up, but sadly no one can make the move.
Well, they've all got it, haven't they? Well, most of them anyway. So there's not a whole lot to be gained. Bottas closing in behind Ricciardo as well. It's interesting. Ricciardo 4.2 off Hamilton. Well, he's carrying some kind of issue in that Red Bull. But he's got Bottas getting very, very close to DRS zone behind him now, Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hamilton leads from Ricciardo and Bottas, the two Williams drivers, running 8th and 12th at the moment. But Paddy Lowe, you could still be in for a double points haul. Anything could still happen here. How are your nerves?
Yeah, it's tense here. This race has its characteristic of being very exciting in the last half an hour. I think we're getting that now. We're hoping Felipe can make some progress and that Lance can hold that position.
Did you need tyres necessarily, Paddy, or was it just nothing to lose? Let's throw a set on it.
For Felipe, it was a free stop. Yeah, so that was a real no-brainer.
So no sign that those up front who haven't changed tyres will have any kind of issue on these ultras?
No, that doesn't seem to have panned out so far. I'm sure that they'll get to the end. It wasn't a question of that, but it was whether they've lost performance for the sort of 10 or so laps they've done.
And Hamilton's just had an awful lap. He only made a mistake, but Ricciardo took 2.6 seconds out of him.
Paddy, just to go back way back into this race, do you think that the decision to leave Felipe Massa out on the wet weather tyres much earlier on, when others were pitting for intermediates, has that affected him a little bit too much for your liking?
It was costly, but at the end of the day, the mistake was made on the grid to pick that full wet in the first place. If he'd boxed under the safety car, he still would have been well behind anyway.
Thanks, Paddy. Thanks for joining us, Martin.
Just looking at Hamilton, his first sector time's okay. The same as Ricciardo, slower than Bottas is, but what a chunk of time. Maybe we'll get a replay of some kind of incident, but a very concerned-looking group in the Mercedes garage as well.
Yeah, well, they were. It's the middle sector where I think we'll see the big difference between the Mercedes and the Red Bull, if there is going to be a problem. And actually Hamilton half a second quicker than Daniel Ricciardo during that middle sector. So is extending the lead just a little bit. Bottas, who was coming under pressure from Carlos Sainz, is now just starting to move a little bit further ahead of the Spaniard, who is within tantalising distance of a first ever podium in Formula One, and what would be the 100th podium for a Spanish driver in the Formula One World Championship.
Normal service resumed in the middle sector for Hamilton, so I think it was just a mistake.
We want to keep the field compressed. We don't want to give anyone a free stop if there's another safety car.
How far behind are they? Is it slowing up?
So Ricciardo has plenty of cars behind him, so all looks good at the moment.
I don't get your tactic. It's not comfortable to drive off pace.
Okay, copy. If you're not comfortable, you can dictate the pace.
Keep the field compressed. In case of another safety car. Why would you want to do that?
Well, I suppose what they're saying, Martin, is if the field are all compressed, then if Daniel Ricciardo, say, wanted to pit behind a safety car, if everyone else is nicely compressed up to him, they're not going to take that risk, because then he loses a huge amount of track position. Yeah. But if Hamilton strings it all out and Ricciardo goes with him, then Ricciardo might have enough space behind him to make that pit stop and get a free one.
So, absolutely. So now they're concerned then if they do need a pit stop, they want to, as you say, they want to make sure Ricciardo doesn't have a comfortable gap, so that they can put him under pressure.
It's like, you know,
but in other words, so hence that slow lap, it's like, we'll back them up. Lewis are going, really? You want me to go slow and get close to my rivals? And then they said, well, okay, no, you go as fast as you want then.
I think the idea being, go slow, but don't go too slow, because we don't want Ricciardo to actually have a chance of overtaking you. But just make sure there's enough people behind him, or in other words, give Valtteri Bottas a chance of putting the pressure on Ricciardo while you keep 2.5, 3 seconds clear out in front.
Yeah,
it sounds really easy to manage. And I would imagine that they'll take a bit of time to explain that to the drivers in the debriefing. You know how I like my tweets occasionally? I'm looking forward to hashtag Ask Crofty after this race. This from Ferrari. Verstappen took Kimi out and then he went to Sebastian. That was their tweets,
really?
Summing up the first lap incident.
Maybe that's why they're still sitting on the pit wall then. I don't think, I don't know what you think at home, but I don't see it that way. Ricciardo's now put in some pretty spectacular sectors as well. He needs to, because Bottas is keeping him reasonably close company, and very honest, that's for sure. Sainz, what a drive from him up in 4th place. He's 3.5 seconds behind Bottas, but a second and a half just out of DRS. Palmer keeps pumping in personal best in 6th place as well.
And we have 14 still running with just a few laps to go here in Singapore. Ericsson, Fiat, Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen and Raikkonen all out.
Maximum focus now, maximum focus, let others make mistakes. Hand in the candle.
Hand in the candle. Don't try that at home, kids, but possibly good advice for Stoffel van Dorn there.
He's got a bit of breathing space behind him with Lance Stroll. Massa is not making quite the progress I thought he would on those fresh tyres. Still just outside the points. He's put a lot of work in, hasn't he, Felipe Massa, for no reward at the moment.
Bit of a shift being put in tonight for Felipe Massa. Just fancy a nice relaxing time of it after this race. On board with Nico Hülkenberg. He's running in 10th place. Romain Grosjean just ahead of him. Hülkenberg at one stage was running in the podium places and was running high up in the points, but at the last pit stop.
The problem now is, Crofty, some of those big braking zones where you'd get a bit dandier, where you'd have a go, are just still going to have a little bit of water, a bit of moisture in there, so it makes it even harder to overtake around this track now.
And you often get the conditions, don't you, where people are suffering on their brakes at the end of this race, where the tyres are not quite as grippy as you want. Well, with the safety car periods that we've had, Martin, we're not getting that towards the end of this race this year either.
I mean, Ricciardo's got nothing like a gap to slot into at the moment. He'd come out last if he pitted now, Ricciardo. If there was a safety car and they Red Bull tried to play some kind of card by pitting him, he'd be right at the back of the pack.
And that's absolutely perfect as far as Mercedes are concerned.
Unless they all pitted, of course.
Absolutely perfect. And here's Hamilton set for A 28-point lead in the championship, which will be more than any driver has had in 2017. Sebastian Vettel, the long-time leader, of course, of this Formula One World Championship, conceded that lead in Monza, in Ferrari's backyard. They came here with high hopes of making up for it, but it has not turned out that way. At one stage, Vettel was 25 points clear, wasn't he, going into or coming out of Monaco. But he's got it all to do in the remaining 6 races of this season if the order stays like this here in Singapore this evening. As 2 races go for Ferrari, it has been absolutely awful, both Monza and Singapore.
Hamilton's got Ricciardo covered, Ricciardo's got Bottas covered, well clear of Sainz. Sainz has still got his mirrors full of Perez, and Palmer's doing his best to stay with them as well, still not showing up in the sector times. The ghost Renault of Jolyon Palmer.
Seek him here, they seek him there. Exactly where is he? Hülkenberg is pitting, and I fear this is not just for a set of tyres. I fear this is for Nico Hülkenberg with a mechanical problem, because he was right on the back of Romain Grosjean, and obviously that not now the case. Having to come into the pits once again, and I think retiring from the race. Oh, that's just wretched luck for Hülkenberg. You've got to feel for him.
Yeah, he had fine pace, didn't he? It looked like he was on for a podium. Renault were a little bit slow on the uptake to pit him on the first safety car. And now he's out of the race altogether.
Something flapping on my left front tyre.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of paper or a leaf or something, doesn't it? And hopefully it's not the core of the tyre where he's locked it up, but we haven't seen anything.
No.
Gone anyway now.
You get bits of debris floating onto the track, leaves in the air. We had a monitor lizard crossing the track last year. Yeah. Not that a monitor lizard's ever a floating piece of debris, but you get all sorts in Singapore. And for Lewis Hamilton, the end of another lap and an advantage over Daniel Ricciardo of 2.3 seconds as he seeks to win the Singapore Grand Prix from the lowest grid position since Fernando Alonso won the inaugural race here in 2008 from 15th on the grid. Ricciardo and Bottas will join him on the podium as it stands at the moment. Carlos Sainz was trying to give Valtteri Bottas a nervy end to this race. He's just dropping back a bit now, Ted.
Well, Sainz's performance is especially impressive, Crofty, as he's on the slower tyre. We used to miss this when he did his stop.
Yeah,
he's on the super soft, the red stripe super soft, rather than the purple stripe, supposedly faster ultra soft. And I mean, his times are slower than Sergio Perez behind him on the ultra soft, but still, he's got the track position. He's going to keep it.
Good spot, Ted. Palmer is just edging towards Perez still.
Perez just edging towards Sainz as well. A couple of tenths of a second quicker on the last lap. Yeah. JJ Lin, musician, an actor, it says there. Not aware of his work.
Did you know that before the caption came up?
Absolutely no idea at all. I'm sure he's very popular in these parts.
He must be very famous to have a seat in the back of the Mercedes garage.
Absolutely. Hülkenberg and Mark Slade will go off and have a little chat there. It's such a shame.
So the Hulk does take that record, doesn't he?
He does. 129 races, the longest F1 career without a podium finish.
That's a travesty. And I still think he could have won in the Force India in Brazil if he didn't. There's a bold move. He made a bit of a too bold a move on Hamilton.
Slow down, slow down. We have lost him. M2K, slow down.
Oh, for f***'s sake.
Yeah, well, Kevin Magnussen, who has been in a really terrific battle this evening. Some great duels with Esteban Ocon, pulling off some really good overtaking moves, was running out of the points and has now run out of time in terms of his MG UK. And once again, these very expensive, highly complicated engines let a very talented driver down.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
And that means then that we have Hülkenberg, Wehrlein, Magnussen, Ericsson, Fiat, Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen, Raikkonen, 9 drivers out of this race. Well, Wehrlein's still going.
Sadly, 3 of them on the first lap. The top 3 on the grid.
So,
not quite the top 3, is it, with Ricciardo in there, but you know what I mean. 3 very important. So we lost first off Alonso, Vettel, Verstappen and Raikkonen early doors. You don't really want a Grand Prix missing that lot, do you?
No, you don't. Voting for your driver of the day, I'd be tempted to vote for Max Verstappen, just out of the sympathy vote, really, on that one. What could have been? What could have been for Kevin Magnussen?
You've got to give it to Hamilton, surely.
Yeah.
Because it looked like Mercedes hadn't got a prayer of living with the Red Bull and the Ferrari through the race. It was a damage limitation, and he's controlled the pace.
Well, with Sebastian Vettel careering over to the left-hand side the way he did, it opened up the gap for Hamilton to tiptoe around the outside at the start, and that was very much the line to take.
Alonso was about to have one of the starts of the century as well, wasn't he? Until he got wiped out.
6.9 seconds covering the top 3. Valtteri Bottas that same distance away, or clear I should say, with Carlos Sainz behind him. Sainz, one of a number of drivers now on for their best finish in Formula 1. Jolyon Palmer with what will be a second career points finish in 6th. Stoffel Van Dorn, 2 10th places before tonight for his best points finish as well. Esteban Ocon has crept into the points. Those magic 25 points for Lewis Hamilton and his bid to win a world championship, with Sebastian Vettel scoring nothing. Absolutely priceless here in Singapore this evening.
He might be running last, Felipe Massa. He is 11th, and he still fancies a world championship point. He's coming back at Esteban Ocon pretty quickly.
You've always got to keep going. Johnny Herbert in Monaco all those years ago finished last there on the podium. So he always tells me, I finished on the podium, Croft. Yeah, you were last.
Sainz, he was a long way behind here, wasn't he? I remember with safety cars, and I was over a lap behind and somehow got up into the action. He's a star of the future, that one. He's a star of now, really, isn't he, Carlos Sainz?
You can understand why Red Bull are okay to loan him for a year, but we'll keep that elastic, please, because we might need him in the main team.
That's all right for Carlos Sainz. He's got a works Renault drive. If not, they'll pull him back and put him in the primary Red Bull drive.
Absolutely, I'm quite happy with that one. And who knows what the Red Bull team will be called if Carlos Sainz, manages to go back there again. And who might be supplying their engines come 2019 as well? Not a shot Max Verstappen really wants to be looking at. I'm sure it's got nothing to do with how his face looks, just the fact that he's watching himself on the screen rather than seeing the highlights of him still out on the track.
I quite like the idea that he's still here, to be honest, watching the race, enjoying the race, because the debrief's going to be pretty short afterwards, isn't it? The technical debrief. So he's still... Many drivers would have been out and gone.
Well, to be fair, he has got to hang around because he's got to go and see the stewards.
Yeah, of course.
Along with Sebastian and
he'll
Kimi
get dragged
as well.
into that inquiry, won't he?
Yeah.
Good point.
See, right.
Maybe he would be gone then if he could.
We're just going in a straight line, and then I kind of got hit from all sides. Yeah, over to you, Seb. What do you want to do?
Another personal best from Palmer, but he can't make enough of an impression on Perez there in 5th.
The one who is getting closer, Ocon, is now getting a little bit closer to Romain Grosjean as well. Might just have a bit of DRS in a moment. He's only going to get 4 laps maybe to have a real attack. Yeah, needs to pull out a little more in the middle sector on this particular lap.
Giving them all plenty of space now. They're not taking any risks out there in the closing stages. Giving the walls plenty of respect.
Yeah. No need to take too many risks if you're out in front. And for the first time in 3 years, the 1-2-3 in Singapore won't be the same 1-2-3 that started on the grid. And for Daniel Ricciardo, it'll be his 4th consecutive podium finish here without actually winning the race as well.
The Mercedes will move 102 points clear in the Constructors' Championship. It's not over yet. There's still 5 minutes to go, but that'll take some clawing back in the remainder of this season. Was that a lock-up there? From
Palmer behind is not under pressure. Palmer is not under pressure.
Yeah, look, I don't care about him. I want to put pressure on Sainz till the last lap.
Well, he's just gone half a second quicker than Carlos Sainz through the first sector of this particular lap, Sergio Perez. So
I think we saw in the distance Danny Rick having a bit of a lock-up into turn 7, didn't we? Is he going to come under pressure from Bottas? He's going to have to hurry up.
They're kind of running out of time to make a late move and a late bid. Carlos Sainz currently in 4th place. Be Toro Rosso's best ever results in Singapore, and also Carlos Sainz best ever results in Formula 1. He's responded, Sainz, by going a couple of tenths faster through the middle sector. Bottas starting to catch Daniel Ricciardo a little bit, maybe by a couple of tenths on this lap, as the race leader makes his way past our commentary boxes once again. In hot pursuits, Daniel Ricciardo, this time last year, was chasing down Nico Rosberg and got within half a second of Rosberg for the race win. The man on the charge behind him, Valtteri Bottas, but he's still over 2 seconds behind. The same 2 seconds between Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz now as well.
Bottas coming alive is a bit late, and he's coming alive.
He's struggled with the balance and finding the right setup on his Mercedes car, and the handling has kind of dogged him all weekend long. Still hasn't got within half a second of Lewis Hamilton in qualifying since the summer break. Is he very much playing that number 2 role to Hamilton at Mercedes now? Will be with the team, of course, next year as well, after signing a 1-year deal en route to Singapore to remain at Brackley with the world champions, who have taken a massive step towards retaining both world championships for another season. Ted Kravitz, is there any look of the pensiveness on Toto Wolff's face disappearing now?
No, not at all. So that part of the garage are all steely faces and stern looks, and then the mechanics have got a little bit of time just to share jokes with each other and think about what a great weekend it's turned out to be. But no, Toto Wolff sat at the end of that console in the garage. Peter Bonington, Hamilton's engineer, just scanning the screens. Jeff Gordon, the NASCAR driver, just stood next to Toto. You know, they say a little bit of Robbins racing in his series, don't they? But a little bit of crashing has made Hamilton's race today.
Fastest lap then for Lewis. On board, while we were here, we were on board with Ricciardo. That's how they sound inside. Here we go again. Very mechanical. Completely different sound when you're in the cockpit to when you're in the grandstands listening to them. A bag of nails, really, doesn't it? But it is, and you're hearing them through the airbox rather than the exhaust pipe. That's why you get such a different sound in the cockpit. The airbox just over your head.
So what are we on? 1 minute 14 seconds to go. Just wondering whether it be this lap or the next lap that will be the last lap of this race. It kind of depends on Lewis Hamilton's pace on this particular lap. He's got a little margin to dictate things. I'll tell you what though, Martin, Lewis Hamilton will firmly believe that the luck is with him after tonight's result.
Yeah, because he had a great start, went around the outside and luckily did not get caught up in the melee. They didn't come steaming in 2 wheels on their wagon and take him out of the race like Alonso had, for example, just behind him.
And he's just set a new track record in the race, a new fastest lap in the race as well, with a 1:45.0, Lewis Hamilton. And this should be then his last lap of a race that he started 5th.
I think he'll get over the line, wouldn't he?
Sebastian Vettel crash out. Is he going to get over the line?
He'll get over the line. There's another lap.
I can't see a checkered flag, so yeah, here we go for this being the last lap. He's made the flag Well, made the line with about 4 seconds to go before the flag comes out, so he's going to have to do another 3.1 miles.
What's going on behind? It's all pretty static now, isn't it? Massa's still not going to get a World Championship point, down in 11th place.
Sergio Perez is going to keep up what is a fairly impressive record in this race, Martin. He's never ever started in the top 10, and for the 7th time will finish in the points. He's got a 100% point scoring record. Never started in the top 10 here. Jolyon Palmer will pick up a very handy top 6 finish on a weekend where he learned that he lost his seats at Renault for next season, or there was no chance of remaining with the team for the next season as well. For Hamilton, 28-point lead in the championship will be his at the checkered flag. Ferrari will retire and go back to their respective bases and think, right, how do we now try and overhaul this and keep that title fight alive and try and give ourselves a world title, because it has all gone pretty much golden for the Silver Arrows and for Lewis Hamilton here in Singapore tonight.
Couldn't be worse for Ferrari, could it? This is the one track where they could recover some ground and give Mercedes some pain, and they're busy parked into the side of each other down into turn 1.
The pain is all Ferraris in Singapore tonight. The gain is all Mercedes, and for Lewis Hamilton it is a victory in Singapore.
I think it's the regulation is got to do one more complete lap after the 2 hours.
There's the final lap.
Yeah, you've got to do one more complete lap after the 2 hours is up, and of course he got over the line just before the 2 hours was up, and that's what this is about. In fact, the regulation is exactly that.
We'll hold the celebration. Keep the champagne on ice down at Mercedes.
Yeah, if he'd have backed off a little bit, he might just have, not that it really matters, I'd have put Ricciardo a little bit too close to him had he backed off and then still had to do another lap.
There was about 4 seconds in it, wasn't there, between getting to the line,
yes,
before that time ran down, and that would have been a bit too close for comfort. It felt like a very long race.
It always does there, doesn't it? Because it is a long race. I don't know why they don't do like Monaco. Everything else is the shortest number, the least number of laps over 305 kilometres, except for Monaco, which is over 260 kilometres. And this is a race that probably ought to be the same in some respects, but it's given us plenty of thrills over the years, nonetheless.
Yeah. I think you do get these close finishes. People struggle in the latter stages. There has been no struggle, though, for car number 44, and you can hear the cheers, can't you, as he goes past the packed grandstands. Plenty of Hamilton caps, T-shirts, Union flags that we've seen around Singapore in the last few days. So it's Lewis Hamilton then. It is victory number 60 in Formula One. Hamilton wins in Singapore and is 28 points clear at the top of the championship. Ferrari's pain, Hamilton's gain. He wins under the lights. Daniel Ricciardo comes home for a 4th consecutive podium in Singapore, and Valtteri Bottas picks up his 10th podium of the season in 3rd place. Well done to Carlos Sainz for his best ever finish in Formula One, holding off Sergio Perez at the end. Jolyon Palmer.
No.
What's happened here? I think either Jolyon Palmer's transponder has gone, but he just disappeared behind Stoffel Van Dorn on the timing screen on our tracker, Martin. He's ahead of it.
He's just not coming up in the results, but he's showing on the tracker ahead of Van Dorn.
Palmer finishes 6th. They seek him here, they seek him there. He's finished 6th. Stoffel Van Dorn is 7th, and his best ever finish in Formula One from Lance Stroll in 8th, Romain Grosjean and Esteban Ocon in 10th. Felipe Massa tried in vain but couldn't make it into the points in the end, and Pascal Wehrlein was a couple of laps down.
Get in there, Lewis. What an awesome drive, mate. What an awesome drive. Absolutely stellar result. Can't wish for better than that.
Guys, what can I say? What a turnaround today. Fantastic job with the strategy. Thank you so much for all the hard work, and you can continue to believe in me. What a great day.
And he understands the strategy now he's won. The fireworks lighting up the night sky. You just wonder, will there be a few fireworks in that Ferrari debrief as well?
So what was that tweet again? They completely blame Verstappen, yeah?
Yeah.
For the accident. The official Ferrari Twitter.
This is the official Ferrari Twitter. I'll get it up for you now. It just says Verstappen took hashtag Kimi7 out, and then he went to hashtag Seb5. Hashtag Singapur GP. I mean, not that you expect any official tweet from Ferrari to not put the Ferrari point of view forward, and that's
yeah, especially
not having a pop at Ferrari. All teams would do that, but that does seem strange to blame Verstappen.
Vai, cavolo! P4, Carlos. Boom, shakalaka. Vamos! Vamos, vamos! Vamos! Vamos, 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 vamos! Toma, toma! Toma!
That I like to hear. That's fantastic.
Great drive from Joe Palmer as well. There's a good answer to Renault for replacing him.
Well, trouble is the man that is replacing him finished fourth, but yeah. I know what you say.
It was a tricky day to get to the end of.
Yeah. So look, that's the Ferrari tweet. It seems strange. It seems strange to point the finger of blame so blatantly at someone before the stewards.
Yes, exactly. That's a prelude to what they're going to be saying in the stewards' inquiry, isn't it?
Cue all the tweets now on hashtag AskCrofty accusing me of not liking Ferrari very much, but I try and sit on the fence and see both sides of the argument. But it did, in your eyes, Martin, look very much like that was Ferrari's fault.
If it's anybody's fault, it's Vettel's fault. That I have absolutely no doubt. Whether they'll they have different tolerances for the run, or for the first lap of a Grand Prix, and particularly the first corner. Well, that is shaking the commentary box. That is some proper fireworks.
I can feel it vibrating the floor.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of money on those fireworks here. They put a lot of effort into the Grand Prix. A 60th race win, as it says, for Lewis Hamilton. Conditions here in Singapore that we've not witnessed in a race before. Really, really tricky evening. And Hamilton has come through to take a win that could be. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 races, but this could very much be the turning point in the championship.
I felt after Spa and Monza he just started to reach out for that championship, and he's certainly extending his arm even further towards that trophy now.
Well, no one before Monza had won back-to-back races this season. He's now made it 3 in a row. As Lewis Hamilton. And will he go on now to take that 4th world title, join Sebastian Vettel as 4-time world champions? And here's a hug there for Valtteri Bottas. And almost for Mercedes as well, Martin, the get-out-of-jail-free night.
Yes, they were let off the hook, weren't they? But they just easily had the pace to cover Red Bull.
Yeah.
So in race trim, they got a better car than they had in qualifying trim.
The first race in Ferrari history in which a 2-car Ferrari team were eliminated on the first lap. It's been a very quiet night on the Ferrari pit wall.
That's quite something, isn't it, in 67 years?
Yeah, isn't it, Jill?
A quiet afternoon, really, for Daniel, wasn't it?
Never in a position really to challenge, was he?
No. On the restarts, he didn't have the grip, he didn't have the raw pace. That's his 3rd consecutive 2nd place here.
Yep.
He's got the measure of it, but that elusive victory.
Just hearing that he might have been struggling with a gearbox problem. Daniel Ricciardo. Well,
that
here
makes sense.
Let's hear what he has to say in the cool-down room now.
£16. Huh? Drinks didn't work. You didn't take that? Mine worked a little bit. You had nothing?
No, like a couple of drops, just if I really try.
I think if it wasn't wet, if it was dry the whole race, you need to be carried. Jeez. Where were you there? Inside or outside? On the outside, so go past you there. Point to the right of you. Off the start. Yeah. Jeez.
Apologies for Valtteri Bottas's colourful language there.
In a dry? Or? Bit of both. Yeah. Inters once it started to dry, I couldn't get much more out of it. And then the dry would hang and then you'd go and then would have not expected the real. What'd you do? What times were you doing? Do you know? Any 45s? 45-0?
So they started talking times. It was time to cut away from the driver's room. We're just hearing that Daniel Ricciardo did have a few gearbox issues and was struggling a bit. Maybe Christian Horner will tell us a little more with the post-race show. That could explain where that race pace disappeared to. Big crowds here in Singapore. I'm waiting for the drivers to come out onto the podium. Streaming now from the grandstands. A lot of Australian fans coming up from Perth, which is but a short flight away. Martin up to cheer on Daniel Ricciardo. Valtteri Bottas saying that his drinks bottle wasn't working. This is not a night where you don't want to be drinking. Full stop.
No, even if you just know it's not there, it hurts. Sometimes you forget to drink out of it, but...
He might get to drink some champagne in a minute, and he might just need it as well. Daniel Ricciardo with a big thumbs up, and a third consecutive second place. But it is victory in Singapore once again for Lewis Hamilton, following up from his win in 2009 and 2014. He's made it 3 wins here. So, yep, a 7th win of the season for Lewis Hamilton, and one that you might just have thought was slightly unlikely when he got out of bed this morning, this afternoon, or whatever time a racing driver gets out of bed in Singapore on race weekend. And for Mercedes, it's another victory here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. For Daniel Ricciardo, it's another gleaming trophy, but it's not the big one. It's not the one that he thought would be there, but smiles nonetheless. Second best, second place for the third year in a row.
If you look at the last few races, Hamilton scored a handful more points than Vettel. Vettel won in Hungary, of course, with that damaged car, with Raikkonen supporting him. But other than that, Mercedes has been pretty dominant.
The summer break is well and truly over. Since returning back, Hamilton won in Spa, won in Monza, has won in Singapore, and maybe has one hand on a championship trophy. 6 races to go, he leads by 28 points. For those three, the evening finishes in similar conditions to the way it started, but it's not rain this time, it's champagne that is pouring down.
th victory then for Hamilton. Can he catch Michael Schumacher's 91? It's heading that way quickly, isn't it?
If he keeps getting the car, Mercedes keep doing the job they're doing, you certainly wouldn't put it past him to do that. 6 races to go, Martin. Whatever happens from here on in, Ferrari need to bounce back pretty quickly.
And they'll need Raikkonen taking points off Hamilton now, as well as Vettel.
Singapore! Singapore, what an unbelievable race. Particularly after the rain started, we were served up a titanic battle. We've got our winners up here. Ladies and gentlemen, he looks exhausted. Lewis, tell us.
I'm not exhausted.
He's not exhausted.
How do you got champagne on me?
No, that's champagne. It doesn't look like champagne to me. But anyway, obviously, you've made a bit of a history here. You really like coming to Singapore. It's its 10th anniversary. Your 3rd win here. Come on, tell me about it.
Well, firstly, I as always, want to really congratulate my team. This is a great result. Valtteri did a fantastic job to get a 1, 2, 3, 1 and a 3 up here. It's amazing points for the team. Yeah, obviously, yesterday we struggled, and we had no idea what was going to happen today. But the thing is, we just try to stay focused and try to get ahead. Obviously, it was very fortunate with the Ferraris at the beginning. So, yeah. I couldn't be happy. I'm really grateful.
I've got to ask you this because we interviewed him yesterday, and he said that he needed a miracle today. Well, and he had the miracle. Come on, tell me, this was just like out of heaven.
Yeah, God bless me today for sure. And I capitalized on obviously the incident. I couldn't have. I mean, who would have known that would happen? But really unfortunate for Ferraris. But it was, as I said, great result for the team. Daniel put up a really good flight today. So, yeah, enjoyed racing him. I was hoping that I would get to race with Sebastian at the beginning, but
Come on, you don't mean that. You know you had such... You were just seeing what was going off in front of you. It was classic, wasn't it, for your 60th win?
As I got round to turn 2 or turn 3, I had Sebastian in front, so I was like, I'm going to have a real race here. But, of course, it's better the way it is. But, yeah, I'm just glad we brought it home.
I'll come back to you, but... Just enjoy the 28 points that you have a lead in the championship at the moment. We're going to have... Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Australia. Come on, let's hear it. Come on. Who out here are Daniel Ricciardo fans? Come on, let's hear one more time. He's made a bit of a habit of this. This is his 4th time. Out of 10 years, it's 4th time on the podium. What is it about Singapore?
I can't win the bloody thing. I'm trying, but it's, yeah, you know, I like it around here. Today, we didn't have that probably Friday pace we showed in practice to have the pace on Mercedes. So a little bit disappointed, obviously, to miss out on a win, but I still got to be pretty grateful and happy with another podium. And I think there's more Aussies here than last year, and there was more than the year before, so it's getting better, and thanks a lot.
We've got to ask you, because it was one of the key factors of the entire race, what was your take on the start? Without naming anybody.
No, I just kind of watched the chaos unfold in front of me. It was probably a good thing I had a bad start, and otherwise I probably would have got caught up in it, but Yeah, it just looked like three were trying to go into one, and I don't know whose fault it was, but it was just too close.
Well, we know that Lewis won Driver of the Day, but you've got the fans here on your side, man, and many congratulations.
Thank
Fantastic.
You. Thanks.
Valtteri, where are we? Valtteri, you had a Sunday afternoon cruise or Sunday evening cruise. You were just sitting back in your armchair watching what was going to happen.
Yeah, you know, of course, it was for us very good damage limitation today. You know, we definitely got lucky, but I have to say the car was working better than expected today, and I was really waiting for the opportunities. Personally, I struggled in the wet with the pace, but in the dry it was pretty good. Time to time I could put pressure on Daniel, but that was about it.
We'll come back to that pressure on Daniel in a second, but I've got to talk about your own championship. I mean, you're closing that gap now to Sebastian. That must be in the back of your mind, mustn't it, all these races to come?
Definitely, you know, there's still plenty of races to come and plenty of opportunities. So, yeah, definitely Sebastian is the next target.
Were you aware that there's still, in all of those 10 years here, we have yet to have a team 1-2 here? And actually, we thought today you might have been the first to break that duck. But you fought very hard. It didn't happen. Did you have that in your mind, or did you know about it?
No, I didn't really think about it. I was just trying to get most out of it. You know, I think we take it, although it's not 1-2, but in a difficult circuit for us, 1-3 is nearly perfect. So thank you, team.
Well done to you. Lewis says he's not knackered, but I am, so I'm going to ask him to do what we did a couple of years ago. Can we sit down?
Sit down?
Yeah, we sat down.
Why are you knackered, man?
Because I'm an old guy, that's why.
I was going to say, geez.
Okay, well, come over here. Is this better? We can lean up here. Lewis, I've got to say to you, when you saw what was unfolding in front of you, what was going through your mind?
I mean, you just focused on winning, so I was just trying to get to the front, and I was.
Yeah, but you said you needed yesterday. You needed a miracle.
I needed it to rain, and as soon as it rained, I knew where I was gonna finish. So, I knew I had the pace when it rains. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the car in the dry. But today, being it raining, those are my conditions. So.
Well done, Lewis. I think all of the winners up here today, we have all one message for you guys. Thank you, Singapore. You have been, as always, amazing. You have been unbelievable hosts to us, and thank you once again. We can't wait for the next 4 years. Keep it rolling. Thank you.